despite saying that. As someone who was born in generational poverty, sixth grade education, my father abandoned us in that neighborhood and left her alone. And so I vowed to break that cycle. I worked myself through high school, through college, and I made my way here to Boston, New England School of Law, and I graduated. And ironically, I realized I am the American dream. I'm the embodiment of it and everything that's capable in a great country. And I ended up joining the Marine Corps as an officer, judge advocate. After 7 years of active duty, I've been a lawyer representing mesothelioma and lung cancer victims, going against Travelers Insurance and Liberty Mutual and General Electric and all the major corporations for 2 decades across the Commonwealth. I've been representing working families for 2 years across the Commonwealth, and I'm looking forward to the comparison of who represents the little guy, me or Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Speaking of the Commonwealth, we love Rhode Island on this show. Marjorie spent some time there. You just moved here a bunch of months ago. Why should people say that a recent transplant is, even if you have great credentials, is an appropriate person to represent them in the U.S. Senate?
Well, first of all, I put my Massachusetts credentials up against anyone. First of all, I couldn't get into Harvard Law or pay for it, but the Marine Corps chose me over Harvard Law, BC Law, BU Law, Suffolk Law to represent the Commonwealth for the 1994 Judge Advocate Law contract, and for 22 years, I've been representing here. Yes, did I live for the last decade, except in January, on the border of Seacon, where I did all my shopping in Seacon? Yes.
That's enough for me. If you shop in Massachusetts, did you ever vote here?
No,
did you ever vote here?
No, but let me tell you that...
Would that not, I mean, as a voter, I mean, I assume you've been voting your whole life. Wouldn't that put you off? Even if they love what John Deaton stands for, the guy's never voted in our state. Yeah, he went to law school here. He moved here 5 months ago, arguably to run for the Senate. Wouldn't that bother you as a voter?
No, not if they see what I've been doing. For 22 years, I've been representing plumbers, pipe fitters, service members, shipyard workers, auto mechanics, electricians. I've been representing the working class people of this Commonwealth for 2 decades against the major corporation insurance companies. Elizabeth Warren
and
represented...
you shop in Massachusetts. You should add that to every line.
Well, my daughter was a senior, just graduated UMass Amherst. And let me tell you something, Jim. If it was good enough to represent the Commonwealth in the Marine Corps, I believe representing the Commonwealth with Marines is a heck of a lot more honorable than 99 other career politician elites in Washington, D.C.
You know, from your literature, it's pretty clear. We talk nonstop about the Republican candidate for president. You don't support Donald Trump, is that correct?
That's correct.
Why?
Well, I don't support him. I didn't vote for him. If you look up, you'll see that I've been a harsh critic. I don't support Joe Biden or Donald Trump this election.
Who are you voting for?
I'm going to write in someone.
Who are you writing in?
Probably Charlie Baker.
And what's the value of Charlie Baker, for those who have short memories? I think we used to be governor of Massachusetts.
Correct, not the most popular governor in America.
He was. And he was with us every month for 12 years, probably. 4 years before he was governor, and then 8 years as governor. He's not going to be the next president of the United States.
That's correct.
You want to cast critical votes on things that affect people in this country every single day, but you've decided that your presidential vote is going to be thrown away.
No, it's not. I've decided not to participate, to take a stand, Jim, that I refuse to participate in the choice of a lesser of two evils. Can I respectfully ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Aren't you tired of having to choose between the lesser of two bad candidates?
Can I respectfully answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I am.
And so all I'm doing is taking a stand and saying, I
don't think Biden is I think he's done a wonderful job as president. I should be clear. You and I disagree on that. But the basic notion that America is voting on two people they don't want to be president is a troubling thing to me, too.
And I'm rejecting it and saying, listen,
Understood.
If you don't support the people that I want to support, poor people and expanding the middle class, working families, then I don't support you. And I don't think the policies are any different. Listen, if you think that poor people living in the hood think there's a big difference between George W. Bush and Barack Obama, you're not paying attention to poor people.
You don't think they think that Elizabeth Warren, who you want fired so you can be hired, stands up for those people?
No, she doesn't stand up for those people. I'm going to show them a real fighter for working families. Why does she support the accredited investor rule that excludes 92% of the American public from investing in private equity?
Well, she supported debt relief for students who were buried. She was one of the leaders of the effort to double child care under some of these COVID measures. I know you care deeply about opioids. She was involved in that effort to get billions of federal dollars. I understand you might say I'm a better advocate for poor people. Your position is she doesn't care about low-income.
Now listen, there was an article in the Commonwealth Beacon that said Elizabeth Warren's new GOP opponent, John Deaton, sounds a lot like ... Elizabeth Warren.
Read it.
Because I talk about opioid addiction. I talk about poor people. My approach is fundamentally different. She's great at fighting against things and people. That's not the same as fighting for. Example, she's great at fighting against the wealthy and the rich. That is not the same as fighting for the poor and for working families.
But her wealth tax, John, wait, just one last thing. Her wealth tax, John Deaton, the funding would go to universal child care. Is that not fighting somebody and benefiting somebody?
You're telling me that when your taxes go to the government, that translates directly into poor people's pocket? It does not. Let me tell you something. Someone who grew up on welfare and food stamps, someone who understands that we need a safety net for people, who will never abandon the people that I grew up with when I become a U.S. Senator, giving them an extra $50 or $100 in food stamps is not helping them.
Well,
I want to lift them up. I do not want to be one of the last poor people in this country to make it. And I get emotional about it because it lives in here. All right? Income inequality is a political slogan to Senator Warren. It lives inside here, and I'm looking forward to the comparison.
Hold on. So let's talk about that, because I think generally speaking, people do think Elizabeth Warren is a staunch fighter for poor people and the middle class. Consumer product safety, that was a whole big thing she did. She's been really tough on the banks. That was another, I think that's a legitimate thing that she's absolutely done. When she talked about having only 7% of your income go toward child care, there were mothers all over America that were very excited about that. Of course, it didn't happen. So how would you be better, especially as a Republican going to the Senate, and Republicans are not exactly representing what a lot of people in Massachusetts think should be done?
First of all, I'm John Deaton. You can't paint me with the same brush as you paint all Republicans. But you brought up the banks. Let me give you an example. It's why I favor term limits. Okay? Senator Warren, I believe, had good intentions. I'm not name-calling her. I'm not going negative on her. I'll hold her accountable. But 12 years ago, 13 years ago, she pounded the table, outraged that the bankers didn't go to prison from the 2008 financial crisis. She vowed to hold those bankers accountable. Who do you think wrote her anti-crypto bill? The banking industry, and she just signed off on it. She's the epitome of what happens. Even with good intentions, like she may have had, you become part of the problem of the broken system when you stay there and you become a career politician. She's the epitome of that, and I'm looking forward to showing the people. You brought up consumer. I won Consumer Advocate of the Year. I won Defender of Freedom of the Year, worked for fighting families. I fought the United States government. I'm not a securities lawyer. I'm a mesothelioma lawyer. And I fought the U.S. government and sued the Securities Exchange Commission because of what it was doing to work regular people, 627 token holders in Massachusetts. I reached out to Senator Warren's office because she sits on the banking committee. She oversees the SEC. I couldn't even get an intern to return my call, and I have hundreds of those people.
We're talking to John Deaton, who's one of the Republicans running for the nomination to run against Elizabeth Warren for the U.S. Senate from Massachusetts.
You know, I just wanted to, you said you don't support Donald Trump, and you're much more of a social liberal than certainly Trump is, or J.D. Vance is running with him. What would you have voted if you had a chance on the appointment of Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, I wasn't in the Senate, and I'll be honest, I haven't studied all of them. They would have had to earn my vote. But just so you know, I've already publicly stated that I disagree with the Dobbs decision. And I actually spoke out first, even before Senator Warren, on the IVF Alabama decision, saying out-of-control judges need to get in line and do their job and stop letting politics interfere. So I'm a pro-choice Republican. I have 3 daughters. I'm incapable of supporting laws that are going to take the rights away from my daughters. That doesn't mean I favor late-term abortions unless there's exceptions for fetal anomalies or life of the mother, but I am a pro-choice candidate. I'm for women.
You know what I understand, and by the way, my understanding is you support same-sex marriage too, is that correct?
Before Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton, I believe in freedom. And so when they did not support gay marriage, when they were like, only civil unions, it's only a man and woman, I was saying, do we live in America? Did I wear a United States Marine Corps officer uniform for no reason? It's America. Love who you want to love.
But John, one of the things I found weird, I would argue in light of the fact that same-sex marriage originated with the brilliant pen of Margaret Marshall, who we love having join us here. And obviously this is about as pro-choice a state as any in the country. And there's a lot of concern in this state that a lot of Republicans, starting with Donald Trump on down, are not pro-choice. I went to your website. And you have all these things, which I found to be very interesting, by the way, and I thought pretty comprehensive, which is to your credit. There's not a link to choice. There's not a link to same-sex marriage. Why'd you choose not to tell the voters at their primary source of information for you about those issues
if you read my bio,
care about them?
If you read my bio, it says that I'm pro-choice.
It's not in the issues section.
Okay, well, I'll talk to my campaign. I haven't been on my site in a while, but I tell you, listen, let me make it clear. I just said, I am a pro-choice candidate who is a father of 3 daughters who supports the laws of Massachusetts as it relates to women's reproductive rights, and I will fight for that.
So why are you a Republican?
Why am I a Republican?
Yeah.
See, that's the...
We used to ask Charlie Baker that question. You're a candidate for president. We used to ask him
Well, listen, this is the problem. We got to get back to voting for who's the best candidate. Right? And sometimes that's going to be a Democrat, and sometimes that's going to be a Republican. I believe in fiscal responsibility. 80% of all U.S. dollars have been printed in the last 4 years. If that doesn't shock you, then I don't know what does. We are stealing from younger generations. I have a 5-year-old daughter. We are stealing from their future because we don't have any control. Both parties have no control when it comes to fiscal responsibility. So I'm a fiscally conservative, common sense Republican who is socially or liberally moderate.
Okay.
John Deaton, can we get back for a second? With all due respect, when you say I haven't studied their records, 3 of the most we both believe the single most important thing when you're voting for president is who he or someday she picks the Supreme Court. Kavanaugh, Coney Barrett, and Gorsuch have helped change the future of this country. Don't you say you haven't studied it well enough? Don't you think you have an obligation before an election to let the voters of Massachusetts know, since you'd be in the Senate voting potentially on Supreme Court nominees, how you would have voted on the 3 people who helped overturn the decision Roe v. Wade, which you support?
Well, what I was saying is I haven't sat and read all of their lower decisions and things like that.
Based on what you know, would you have voted for them? Every Republican,
Neil Gorsuch probably, and probably maybe not the other 2.
Okay, Gorsuch yes, the other 2 no.
How about some of the big issues that the Republican Party doesn't support? Climate change, guns. Where are you on those 2?
I support the laws of Massachusetts as it relates to the Second Amendment and guns, and I believe in climate change. I just believe anyone who says that climate change isn't real is being a fool or being ignorant. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean I support, we're going to go carbon emission by 2050 and eliminate thousands of jobs with no plan and then give economic advantages to other global countries. We have to have common sense, multifaceted approach that includes solar, that includes wind, that includes hydro. We can't even talk about, most experts in this area think that small nuclear could be an option. But you can't even talk about that because it becomes, that's taboo. We have to get back to common sense. And I'm a common sense Republican. I got news for you. A lot of Democrats are coming my way when they learn who I am.
John Deaton, you don't know me, but I don't like telling people where I had lunch yesterday. This is credit. You seem to be... You don't want to hide anything about you. The line that everybody, quoted about you the day you announced was this cocaine-fueled sex bender. Why did you choose? I mean, it's not like it's on your resume.
Right.
Why did you choose to tell the people this?
Well, listen, when I wrote my book, Food Stamp Warrior, it was...
I'm sorry I didn't reference that.
No, it's fine. I wrote a book. For 40 years, I never told anyone that I was raped. For 2 years, brutally. For 40 years, I never talked about my mother being stabbed. I never talked about my mother being hospitalized on 3 other occasions. I never talked about the gun in my mouth with the hammer cocked. I never talked about my best friend, Derek, dying in my arms at 17 years old. I never talked about that. I was so focused on overcoming poverty and being a good father. If I became a father, unlike my own, I pushed it down. And I said, I'm not going to be a victim. I can't change it. Just move ahead. And then I did it. I had lots of money in the bank, I was a great father. My daughters are in college. I'm in this nice home. I ended up being divorced. My ex-wife threw a fundraiser for me to give you an idea.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, Jim, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. crying. I'm crying with my mom crawling on the ground. I'm crying with Derek, my best friend, dying in my arms. I'm crying about the rapes for the first time in 40 years. And I'm like, why is this happening to me 40 years later? So my book was about unexamined trauma, right? You can push it down and you can pretend it didn't happen, but eventually it will catch up to you when you least expect it. And my mother was dying, and at the same time I was dealing. So what I did was give an all-tell memoir. This is my life. I was acting out because I didn't want to be alone. And I was trying to prove that, like, I'm a guy, I'm a man.
So what did
right?
that do for you, being that incredibly open about all of the pain and trauma in your life? What's that done for you?
It's been the best thing. Whether it's Senator Warren, as you know, Opposition Research 101 is right there in that book for Senator Warren to say anything mistake I've made, I've admitted it. But I'll never regret that book. I've had grown men my age or older with tears in their eyes saying, John, you sharing that helped me. I experienced, sexual abuse or domestic violence or poverty. The thing I've learned, Jim, about this book is that it resonates with people. We all have so much more in common, whether it's the poverty or whether it's the deadbeat dad or whether it's sexual abuse or whether it's opioid addiction, because I got injured in the Marine Corps on active duty, not in combat, but I had a couple on training, couple back surgeries, and they gave me this pill called OxyContin, and they said it's not addictive. Take that for 120 milligrams a day for 3 months, and I can assure you it's addictive. So when my mom was dying, all of this was surfacing, and the book was cathartic for me, and that's why I wrote it out. And I made a choice to just tell it all and be honest and transparent, and most people that read it, they welcome that transparency.
Well, you're making up for me being honest about nothing. I don't mean honest, I mean open about nothing. I'm honest.
So we only have a minute left, but your mom died then before you wrote the book and before she saw.
You're gonna make me cry, but yeah.
What point in your life were you at that point? Had you gone to law school and started representing?
Yeah, my mother was able to see me succeed.
Okay.
I talk about it in the book. My mother, John never did anything wrong, and I was like, she was wrong. I did a few things wrong, but she was very proud. And like I said, I'm the American dream. Who can go from that background to run for the United States Senate and take on one of Washington's elites? I love this country.
What's your website, John Deaton?
JohnDeatonForSenate.com.
Great.
And it's Deaton.
Yes.
Congratulations. Good luck, and I hope you'll visit us again, John Deaton.
I'll visit as much as you'll have me.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your time.
very much for being with
appreciate
us. We've been speaking to
called Trump unfit for office during her own presidential campaign and who formally endorsed him last night.
We have a chance to put aside our differences and focus on what unites us and strengthens our country.
Next on stage was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who actually quoted Trump's own words, spoken moments after the assassination attempt last Saturday at that rally in Pennsylvania.
Let's elect Republicans up and down the ballot, and let's heed the call of our party's nominee to fight for these United States.
Trump was in the audience watching all of last night's speeches. Don Gagne, NPR News, Milwaukee.
President Biden is working to refocus his message and rebuild support among Black and Latino voters. In an interview that's set to air on BET News tonight, Biden once again pushed back against calls to withdraw his re-election bid, pitching himself as the best candidate to beat Donald Trump in November.
I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom. And I think I've demonstrated that I know how to get things done for the country.
Biden will meet with members of a Latino civil rights organization in Las Vegas today. Last night, he addressed a conference of the NAACP. Federal investigators are working to determine a motive behind the attempted assassination of Donald Trump last weekend. NPR's Quill Lawrence has the latest from Western Pennsylvania.
Residents of this quiet Pittsburgh suburb are still struggling to explain how Thomas Crooks, a young man with good career prospects and no past signs of trouble, has made their town notorious.
It's been great place to grow up and a great place to see a lot more young families in recent years come and move in.
Rob Gorecki commutes to a tech job in Pittsburgh, but he says Bethel Park is still home.
It makes it even more shocking, a place like this, a community like this is hit very hard.
There's still no explanation for why Crooks opened fire on Saturday, killing one, seriously wounding two others, and coming within an inch of assassinating former President Donald Trump. Quill Lawrence, NPR News, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania.
On Wall Street, the Dow was up 214 points. This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called out Martha's Vineyard by name last night at the Republican National Convention. His remark was a criticism of the Democratic Party's border policy. DeSantis claims that they want to allow millions of undocumented immigrants into the country.
Just don't send any to Martha's Vineyard, then they get really upset.
The governor there making light of his trafficking of 50 migrants to the vineyard by plane 2 years ago. A federal judge dismissed DeSantis from a lawsuit over those flights earlier this year. Boston police have seized 9 more mopeds in a recent crackdown on illegal vehicle operations in the downtown areas of the city. These 9, added to the 13 mopeds that were seized last week, brings the 2-week total to 22. A statement released yesterday by the Boston Police Department says that they would like to remind everyone that vehicles are strictly prohibited in the downtown crossing pedestrian zone, and the area is designated for pedestrian use only to ensure the safety and enjoyment of all visitors. And they added that additional pedestrian zones where motorized traffic is also barred include the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway, the Quincy Market area, and Faneuil Hall. In sports, New England Revolution are in Philadelphia tonight. The Red Sox back in action on Friday when they open a series with the Angels in Los Angeles. Let us start the second half of the season on fire, and let's skate right into October. It is 88 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from Subaru, featuring the 2025 Subaru Outback Wilderness. With standard symmetrical all-wheel drive and all-terrain tires, it's designed for paths not yet taken. Learn more at Subaru.com/wilderness.
News from Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live as we do every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from the Boston Public Library. Happy to announce that YouTube is back up, so you can watch us streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be back here on Friday at the library with live music from the Landmarks Orchestra. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. Did you say, because I wasn't paying attention, my apologies. I apologize.
Won't be the first time.
Did you say that GBH was carrying the RNC tonight thing?
I did not say that.
Okay, 9/11 tonight, GBH is carrying special coverage of the Republican National Convention. This is great. And by the way, this should happen at every major political event. And GBH is doing a live fact-checking analysis tool. It's available on gbh.org. That is fabulous. For everything, by the way, not just for the Republican Convention. Joined now at the library by Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and her latest book is The Devil Never Sleeps, Learning to Live in an Age of Disasters. Hello, Juliette Kayyem.
Hello, Juliette Kayyem.
Thanks,
nice
everyone.
to see you.
It's nice to see you.
So
it's been a while.
It has been a while because you've been off gallivanting wherever you go, Juliette. I'm not sure. Rhode Island, I think, a lot of the time.
Yes, a lot of the
But
time.
I've also seen you all over the place this weekend after the tragedy in Pennsylvania where the former president, I should say, was nearly assassinated. A lot of criticism about the
rightfully so.
lack of security in the building on top of which the shooter fired from. What do you think?
Line of sight. I mean, everyone's now saying
Could you
it
move
is-
your mic up just that perfect? Thank you.
Hello.
That's
It's been
good.
so long since I've been here. I'm new here. Line of sight was clear that because what you want to avoid is to give a potential assassin a line to the protectee. So one of the things that the Secret Service would always do is they would stand where Trump was standing and look around and say, where are my vulnerabilities? We've now all seen that building was awfully close, but it was out. Someone determined that it should be outside the security zone. In other words, the security zone is where you're going to have the heightened security. It doesn't mean that what's outside the security zone is safe. It just means that, you might have local or state or whatever capacity. The excuses coming out of the Secret Service are just incomprehensible at this stage. So I'm going to wait. There's hearings next week. You can't call it a success. It's clearly a failure. Who determined that building would not be secure and part of the security zone? Why would you defer that building if it's true? I don't know what's true anymore, to local and states protection. This argument that they didn't put anyone on the roof because it was slanted and therefore unsafe. I was like, I saw that roof. It was like slanted like that. But we have drones. Do we not have drones? And then the communication breakdown. You have members of the rally. You have members of local and state police all recognizing a threat, suspicion, and then they see him on the rooftop. Why isn't Trump just whisked out of there within 5 seconds?
That's what I wondered about, because there did seem to be a lot of communication.
It's none of it is making sense to me. I mean, I'm not. Everyone will have their conspiracy theory. I'm saying none of it. It shows how bad it is that I can't even explain it. Like that every breakdown seems to have occurred. But I think when we learn more, the key breakdown will be the decision in the planning of the protecting the facility, that the decision to put that building outside of the Secret Service zone is going to be the sort of the primary reason.
That's the so-called security perimeter that we've heard mentioned a million times. So I guess that's the question: where do security perimeters end?
Right. You wouldn't end it at line of sight. I mean, you wouldn't.
Wherever it ends. I know nothing about security. You know everything. There is there's no explanation for this. And you mentioned you're not. I am not a conspiracy theory partial person. If I was, this would be the thing.
That's what I keep saying. It's like literally we're feeding into either the conspiracy that he wasn't really shot and it was just a false flag to so that he could get support, to the Secret Service let their guard down because they want him dead. Like you're giving everyone enough ammunition. I'll tell. Yeah, sorry about that. But the piece that's not feeding this is that the motive is still not known. He's an enigma wrapped in an AR-15. I have no idea. I can't put pieces together with this guy.
We were wondering before, and we're going to ask you about this. It took them a long time to get access to his phone.
Yeah.
We assume that's happened?
Yes, the access. And
what the reason why? Because is it an Apple phone? I mean, do we know? Do they have
it might have been security, might have been on WhatsApp. It just takes a while to get into these.
It takes a while.
To these phones. But at least what we're hearing early on is that the information is not conclusive about what his motivation was. And I think it's likely, this may be like the Las Vegas case, that we actually don't know what in fact motivated him. We've got conservative father. He may have had conservative viewpoints. He then gives to this group. I don't have any idea. I keep calling them there's two types of radicalized threat we worried about, right? One is the Proud Boys, right? The organized group. They have a mission. You know what they mean. You know what they want. And then what should be called the Lonely Boys. And I'm not defending it, but the part of our society now is these 20-year-old, generally white, white men, access to guns. They're reading things. They have no judgment, no discrimination. They have no community. They have no network that is supporting them in a healthy fashion, and Can
I say one last thing about this, if I may? I mean, obviously, the primary thing is it is really important that those who the Secret Service protects are safe. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, thankfully, no one has called and said what is all over Twitter and those kinds of things. You keep these people alive and safe, and you have elections if you want to rule them out. The second thing, though, which I know is not the Secret Service's, in my view, this may be and is likely to be seen as changing American history. I mean, I am of the belief, not only Trump was leading in this thing, whether Biden pulls out or not, that this moment is going to galvanize support for this guy enough to get him elected in November. So the consequences of their failure, as you say in your piece in The Atlantic, is not just that a former president and a presidential candidate was almost executed, but in my belief, post-November or whatever, we may be saying that's what helped ensure that he got a second term.
Yeah,
we're talking
we'll
of course, we'll see. We're talking to Juliette Kayyem.
So, Juliette, the Eileen Cannon, the justice down in Florida, the judge, right, down in Florida, has dismissed the classified documents case. We've said it before.
Yeah.
That was the clearest kind of slam dunk of a case. It was very clear. It wasn't that convoluted. Talk now that the 11th Circuit may reverse her decision and may even remove her from the case, but also that this could go very quickly to the Supreme Court. So what do you make of all this?
So let me just be, I had not realized this, that Cannon was in that flurry of judges who came in after Biden is elected, but before he's president.
Office, yeah.
I had no idea that, like, literally, I mean, maybe I just missed it, but she's like 12 years old, no experience, whatever. But this is, this is the McConnell, I'm gonna save the courts. There is no law in her opinion. It is. She strikes me, I'm just going to be honest, she strikes me as thinking that she's smarter than she is. Oh, no one else thought of this. Now I'm going to go after the
Clarence
independent.
Thomas thought of it.
Right, I mean, but I mean that she's going to, be this independent judge that no one, she's not smart. And well before this, there were lots of reporting that lots of judges on the court, including Republican ones, were telling her, this is not ultimately going to be good for you. Now, look, maybe she's thinking, I'm going to get on the Supreme Court at the age of 5, however old she is. But maybe that's what she's thinking. But the opinion could very well, it's so bad, and she's been reversed before, that it could very likely be reversed, and that when you have that many reversals, because remember, she was reversed big time at the beginning. I've never heard of a circuit court saying that a judge is doesn't have the intellectual capacity to take a case, but if there is a theory of appeals that would go to that, and I'm sure that the independent counsel is going to argue that. But, she's just not hiding her political agenda. I mean, most judges try to hide it behind law. It's like she's not even trying to hide it at this stage.
We're talking to Juliette Kayyem. Speaking of judges in the Supreme Court, Joe Biden, former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has been very reluctant, while he's been critical of the Supreme Court, particularly after the immunity decision and after Dobbs repealing Roe v. Wade. He has embraced no reforms that have been talked about, whether it's term limits, expanding the court, a whole variety of things.
Yeah.
While he hasn't endorsed expanding the court, he has now said in the last few days that he endorses major changes. Term limits for justices, which at least Nancy Gertner and Larry Tribe, who are on the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court, think requires. Your husband was not on that commission,
No.
Who's a federal appellate court judge, by the way, as I think people know. They believe that term limits requires a constitutional amendment. He says he also supports an enforceable ethics code.
Yes.
And he would support a constitutional amendment to eliminate broad immunity for the president. Now, while none of those has a chance of going anywhere, I think it's really important that, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, if you believe in something, you move on it so that there's debate, even in the public, and you find out which side your elected officials are on. And if they're all defeated, fine, and he's a little late to the game here, but if they're all defeated, at least it says where this one important individual, the President of the United States, stands on the issue. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a without getting into any of the specifics, I think what Biden is proposing is hardly radical, right? It's less radical than FDR. It is important for the institution. Biden cares about the institution of the judiciary, and some of it is, some of it's obviously political and won't pass, but. To talk about ethics is important, right? I mean, it is important. Menendez gets convicted. Like, it's important.
Democratic senator,
right? that those kinds of ethics rules, now Menendez was easy, are important and enforced. We're all under them as a spouse, as a judge, as a legislator. Everyone is under them. And the idea that the Supreme Court is somehow not, part of that process, I mean, I sort of, you just think, like, everyone has gotten the benefit of the doubt long enough, right? I mean, in other words, like this is like how I felt about Trump and the assassination attempt, and I have been very consistent about, about the horror of this, and the Secret Service failed Trump, and it failed our systems. The thing that's interesting about Trump is people thought, well, maybe this will bring the temperature down, and people will now realize that we've gone to the brink. The next day he picks J.D. Vance. Like, the temperature is not going down. As I said, there's only so many times that you can be hit in the head with what's going on in this country and not acknowledge it. So I'm just glad that Biden is finally acknowledging it. Biden, who's so aligned with institutions, so believes in them, he doesn't see often, I think, what is happening, which is there is a strong trend, if not that could be president again, in which those institutions do not matter. And so you either you pretend that it's not happening, or you start playing with it.
I don't know what the answer to this question is. You're a good Democrat.
Yeah.
You ran for governor a few years ago for the Democratic nomination here. You are a Democrat, as I say. Where are you on this whole Biden? Should he step aside? Oh. If he doesn't step aside, is he a sure loser?
No. I mean, in this world, I sort of just accept what I know to be, which is he's made it clear he's not leaving, and unless some other shoe drops. So then, knowing that he's not leaving, I'm not getting the "it's all over" sentiment. I read Politico, and the House is, we're resigned to a second term. I am looking at the same data. It is on some days better for Trump. If I look at the likely voters, it's clearly better for Biden, right? Versus support versus people who are going to show up at the polls. I think J.D. Vance is a very bad move for Trump. Trump thinks he does not have to increase his base. That's because he's only hearing from his base. Trump needs to increase his base. This is me being political, whatever. If the things start to align in a way, things calm down after the Democratic nomination convention, like, does J.D. Vance have job security? I don't know. I mean, if Trump starts to panic, who does he throw under the bus? Doesn't throw himself under the bus. I am like 50-50 that guy is on the ballot in November.
Wait, which one?
Vance.
That Trump decides to back away from Vance?
Yeah. Because tell me what Vance gives him.
Well, I said here's the theory of many people, that what Vance gives him is that Trump has decided now. He's very confident. He thinks he's going to win. He's not going to care. He's not going to care about the suburban women. He's not going to care about Roe and Dobbs and all that. He's going to care about mobilizing young white men who almost never vote, or I shouldn't say almost never vote, who are not really huge voters between like 18 and 30, that think J.D. Vance is great. That incel group will like him, and they'll think that he's great because of the fist in the air stuff, that macho thing.
They're all in red states, Marjorie. I mean, this is the thing, is that he's playing my personal feeling is Trump is playing a red state game. You got the red states. I mean, you can have the 20-year-olds in Oklahoma. I'm not getting them.
Well, he needs the 20-year-olds in Pennsylvania.
He's
too.
not,
and I think that's very going to be
and the counter to the suburban women who look at J.D. Vance with no exceptions for incest and rape on abortion. This is galvanizing. I mean, this will. Let me just put it a different way. J.D. Vance's point, his election or selection, has put Dobbs back on the front burner, and that's the Democrats' game. So I'm not. People are like, how can you be so? I'm not sure of anything, but the idea that I'm resigning to the second Trump presidency is like ridiculous. Everyone get your game on if you actually believe that this is going to be as bad. Yes, we don't have. I tell my kids, yes, I get it. He's not. Biden's not rocking your boat. Vote for the country you want to inherit. right? That's what you're voting for.
Okay, so let's move on to something else. You say to yourself, if you were lucky enough to get caught doing something illegal, brought to trial, and by the skin of your teeth,
favorite topic.
you get out of it. You escape sentencing and all that. Why do you go out? This would be Bob Menendez, of course, the Democratic senator from New Jersey. Why do you go out and start collecting gold bars from nefarious people and stashing hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash around your house?
It's got to be.
He was just convicted, we know, of 16 counts, bribery, extortion, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, acting as a foreign agent, etc., in this years-long bribery scheme. I mean, he was a senator.
I know. Well, he's not just a senator; he was the head of the foreign relations. I mean, and look, this is where ethics matter on both sides. He was the representative of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the most powerful committee, one of the most powerful committees on the Hill. He is in the majority party, and every country knows he's for sale for a gold bar. And it is absolutely shocking and good for the Democrats to say you absolutely have to resign. I mean, it's a Democratic governor. You can. This is not a big deal, right? You can, but the idea that. I mean, one is they can't help themselves, right? I mean, I do believe that some of these people just live in a world in which they sort of justify what their action is.
They can,
right? Exactly. And the other is, I hate to say it, but it's like he's got a wife, and this wife, from everything I read from the testimony, is. Anyway.
She made him do it?
Not she made him do it. She made him do it.
He found young love and he decided.
Let's just say there were no allegations against him until after he married her.
Okay, so let me just ask you this, though. I mean, that whole issue, you do
they're
not know.
They're laughing in the back.
Excuse me.
Yes, thank you. They're nodding.
She kept the gold bars in the locked closet in the bedroom.
Can you say, Juliette Kayyem, I'm talking to you right here. Now, can you say with certainty, that your husband has not locked gold bars in some closet? How do you know that?
Yeah.
How do you know that? You don't know that.
Have you met David?
I have met him.
Okay,
no, not a gold bar. Not a gold bar kind of guy.
He let's just say, his alternative career was not to be a spy.
Okay.
The fact that most sentences begin with "Where is my wallet? Where is my keys?"
By the way, for those who don't know, we should say we assume people are following this. The Menendez defense is that his wife, who currently has cancer, it's great to blame her for everything, but she was doing this on her own.
That's
she locked all the gold bars in a closet in the house.
Never noticed.
He had no idea they were there. It's her fault.
But you remember when Fonnie Willis' father, she's of course the prosecutor in Georgia who kind of messed up, and now this Georgia case against Trump is on hold. But her father gets in and he talked about how he was always telling her to keep some cash around the house or go out on dates. And he said it was a black thing. That's what we do. It's a cultural thing. I love Bob Menendez. He said this was a cultural thing, too.
Yeah, he did.
He's from Cuba. And therefore, because of, Castro and all that kind of stuff, that was their deal in their house to keep cash around the house. But it wasn't just $200 or $1,000. $400,000 worth of cash around the house.
But also, doesn't like a gold bar remind you of a cartoon when we were growing up? Didn't they have I was like, do people actually have those?
Do you walk into the bank?
No, I've never even seen one.
Do you carry it into the bank and say, here's my gold bar?
You put it in your pocket and you go to the 7-Eleven, say, how much change do I get? They melt off a little bit and they give you the
Is that what they do? They melt them down?
Wait, can you remind me who was the state rep? She might be a state rep again who was putting the cash in her bra.
Oh, Diane Wilkerson. State senator.
State
We had her on the front page of the Herald putting the cash in her bra.
Yeah.
That was too bad because she had a great career until that.
No, she made a mistake.
Besides the cash and the cleavage.
She was a real firebrand.
She was.
But now she's redeemed herself.
She just ran for the Senate again.
She's ran for the Senate again.
Okay, so Juliette, as we all know, you're going to Paris allegedly to do something about security. Here's some sound of Parisians.
No one believes me.
Here's some sound of Parisians on TikTok.
I know.
Bashing their government's handling of the Summer Olympics. Here it is.
If you're planning on coming to Paris for the Olympic Games, do not come. We don't want the Olympic Games here, and our government is making it hell on earth.
As a Parisian, I'm getting the F out of here. The workers that worked on the stadiums being constructed for the Olympics literally didn't have access to medical care. They don't have papers. They were working millions of hours a week. They were not paid the normal rate that they should be paid.
By the way, it's not her fault. We should say, are we having the 3 No Boston Olympics people on Friday?
Oh, great.
They're the ones that saved us from the Olympics in 2024 here. They'll be with us on Friday at the library. And also, in a serious moment for a second, when the people of a community are not crazy about it coming, doesn't it make the job of people like you a lot harder?
Yeah, well, I have to say, not picking Marie Le Pen's party to run. Oh my God! I mean, if she had won, if that party had won, I mean, there would have been massive riots in the street and everything else. But yes, I mean, I think that, look, there's a lot of people that do support it. There's a lot of people that don't support it. We saw that same thing here. This thing is now going forward in 9 days. It does make the security more difficult, but there's no evidence like that like people are going to be attacking foreigners because they're arriving and stuff. They're I think expecting between 14 and 16 million visitors.
Now, do you want to reconsider
14 to 16 million?
I think so.
Wow.
I think
do you
2
want to
million Americans
reconsider
are
the
going.
comment you made to us last week when you said, and you said it straight face, we were looking on Zoom, that you would not have any time for enjoyment while you're in Paris.
I did get tickets
for the Olympics.
Do you want to?
I mean,
you got tickets?
I did.
Oh,
I don't know,
what?
but I got tickets because I don't know what my schedule will be like because I am going for work. I know you don't believe me, but like he sees like, oh, I go to this race or like whatever. I like literally sit. But if I can get out,
what'd you get tickets for?
Beach volleyball.
Oh, I mean, seriously.
The men or the women
that's a heavy
or both?
responsibility.
It's both. Remember?
Have you seen it? Have you seen
beach volleyball?
It's in front of the Eiffel Tower?
No.
Oh yeah, they put it.
Great.
Yeah, they put
it
it in sand, and I did get tickets for that, and I'm going to, and I have it anyway. The opening ceremony.
Not anyway. And
Hold
you're
on.
going to what else?
Hold on. Before we move off beach volleyball,
I'll be here next week. You can badger me then.
Fine.
We have a crucial
I'm not leaving till Thursday night.
Juliet, what about the bathing suit issue for the women? I mean, there was a big controversy.
You mean for the volleyball?
Yes, for the beach volleyball.
Yeah,
They're now in one pieces,
but that's,
2 pieces.
No, they can
no pieces. No pieces. The way the Olympics wants it.
What?
I said no pieces.
There's the 2 pieces are probably better in terms, because every weight down. No, it's the countries that are doing it to the Olympics teams.
Okay.
And so the countries better get their act together. Now, Turkey, very interesting Muslim country. Yeah. Turkey did until recently. I hope that they go far. Everyone, watch out for the Turkish beach volleyball team. Female,
men or women?
Women.
Yeah, what are they
it's
doing?
going to be so interesting.
What are they doing?
Their outfits down to their knees?
A Muslim
like
country. No. They're more covered, but also just it's a remarkable team. So that will be fun. But that's fun. I don't have fun. I don't know why I just said that.
How do you know it's remarkable?
Why do?
What do you know
just because I follow.
You're following beach volleyball.
I used to play beach volleyball.
That's right. You're a California
girl.
Yeah.
Remember when there was some trial? We have Olympic trials. Remember when the beach volleyball women's team was down in South Boston?
No, that was not it. I will tell the story.
Tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Here's the story. I read this when you were working the Boston Herald.
Okay.
So
I think I covered the story.
This is a true story. The men's volleyball team, whatever year this was, 15 years ago, were like world champions. They performed somewhere in Boston. Nobody shows up. These are the best male volleyball players in the world. The women's volleyball team, which at that point were terrible, go to Quincy. That's where it was. 5,000 people show up.
Have you seen these women?
Quantum was packed.
I know I've been married to a man a long time, but if you see these women, I'm buying a ticket. They are.
You're an honest woman.
I am a very honest woman.
We'll see you next
week.
We'll
have a wonderful time.
You can harass me
we
then about the
Olympics.
We
are.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Come
not
in with your schedule next Wednesday, please, if you would. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much, Juliet Kayyem.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
We have been speaking with Juliet Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Her latest book with my favorite title, The Devil Never Sleeps, Learning to Live in an Age of Disasters. Juliet, thanks again, as always. Up next, author John Spooner is here to discuss his latest book, Wake Up, A Lifetime of Lessons from Smart Women. John is looking back at what he has learned many years in his career and telling us about those lessons. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
During World War II, 50 black sailors were charged with mutiny for refusing to keep loading munitions after hundreds of their fellow sailors died in a huge explosion.
I just didn't want to work under the same conditions and advance the chance of the same thing happening again.
Remembering the Port Chicago 50, 8 decades later, on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Eversource, committed to helping businesses reach sustainability goals and lower their energy use through energy assessments and custom recommendations. Learn more at eversource.com. And Carr Financial Group, independent fiduciaries committed to guiding investors through the changing economy with wealth management, financial, and retirement planning services. Consultations can be scheduled at carrfinancial.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie. And we're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. You know, when we had John Deaton on, who's one of the Republicans running for the Republican nomination to challenge Elizabeth Warren, we failed to mention the name of the other man who we have invited on, who is also seeking the Republican nomination. He's Ian Kane. He's the Quincy City Council president. We've reached out to him, and if he or his people are listening, you are welcome to join us on the show, so please be in touch. We're now joined by investment advisor and author of several books, the latest of which is called Wake Up, A Lifetime of Lessons from Smart Women. I could have written that about you, Marjorie. Thank you very much. John Spooner, it's great to have you here.
Nice,
Thanks so much for joining us.
Marjorie's going to be in the next one.
I should hope so.
That's right. I'm quoted in the book, actually. I'm one of the people. What do you call the people that you put in the book somewhere?
The blurbs.
The blurbs.
Wait, what did you say? I didn't even read that
blurbs.
part. Let's hear what you said.
I don't remember what I said.
Oh, good. Okay, fine.
I'll have to look it up in a second. But while I'm looking that up, tell us, John, Jim sort of gave an idea, lessons from smart women, but give us the thesis. What were you trying to do here?
Years ago, I wrote a book called Smart People. And one of the chapters was smart women in my life. And for years, from the 80s, I had the idea that why don't I devote a whole book to women's advice to me, because women have nurtured me and educated me and inspired me from the time I was 3 years old. And I realized as time has gone on, we all know that this is women's time. And for instance, during the pandemic, what did women do during the pandemic? They did everything. And they would speak to their lady friends every day. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you rubbing on your arms? What are you cooking? What about the kids? Guys during the pandemic are looking out the window saying, who am I? What's it all about? Because the biggest problem is men don't call men. Guys don't call guys. And it's become an increasing problem, I think. And because of this network on a daily basis that women have, so I thought, why shouldn't I share? Because more and more, if I need advice about anything, because I actually need a village, I'm really pitiful by myself. And I'll call a woman for advice about virtually everything. So this is a major shift.
Well, you know, one of the pieces, many pieces of advice you advance in this book that was given to you had special resonance with me. Marjorie and I are huge train people. We're actually going to talk to the Globe's travel writer, Christopher Muther, in the last hour about a behavior on the train that he is embracing. But explain what you wrote and the advice you were given about a 4-hour train ride and the value of that in a relationship. Advice, again, from a woman, John Spooner.
Well, at one point in my life after college, I had a girlfriend, and she was in law school at the time and come from California, and she was very interesting and obviously very smart. And how smart and interesting she was. One night I was picking her up at her dormitory, and I fell in love with James Bond when those books first came out. And she knew about my adoration for James Bond. And I was picking her up, and she was late coming down in the dorm. Eventually, she came down, and we went out to my little Volkswagen Bug, my first car, and there was something on the seat, and the car had been locked, a package. I opened the package, and in it was like a varsity letter sweater that had 007 on the front of the sweater. And I said, what? She had knitted me the 007 sweater.
Oh, my goodness.
And jimmied the car open and then figured out how to lock it again. So she said to me...
What's the lesson of that? That you were dating a burglar? I mean, what is the...
No, the lesson to me is this relationship ain't going to last very long because she's way above my pay scale. So she said to me, if we're going to have a further relationship, I think the test of a real relationship is take a train ride to New York, 4 hours. It was way before cell phones. And we have to talk to each other for 4 hours. And if we emerge in New York, having had a successful 4 hours of chatting, maybe this relationship is going to live on.
That's right. You were going to bore, if you hadn't bored each other in 4 hours, you might never bore each other in 4 hours.
I totally subscribe.
So what a great test.
I love that.
Well, let's go back to little tiny John here. You have a little chapter in here about your own mother. I think you called her the first Jewish American princess in the suburbs. You know, kind of a hot ticket. Obviously, her influence on you was huge. What were some of the things she told you that mattered?
Well, the best thing I learned from Mom is the best way to have a long-term relationship is sense of humor. And Mom used to say to me, if you get married someday, marry funny. I said, did you say marry money? And she said, no. The thing that will sustain a long-term relationship more than anything else is a sense of humor. And all my friends, she was one of those mothers where the kids, my friends in high school, would all want to see Mom, my mother, because she would kid around with them and embrace them in welcoming ways, and never cooked anything for them because she would, going to high school, I had the same thing for lunch every day in high school. My mother would make a PB&J sandwich, stick it in the refrigerator. So by the time I ate it at high school, it was rock hard and horrible.
She
But
wasn't a cook.
No, it was
But
not.
she did give the middle finger to her brother when he took a picture of her in her 70s in her bathing suit, which I thought was, for an older woman, kind of an interesting thing to do. When you talk about having lost your own wife of 40-some years,
Yeah.
and the difference between men who live alone, either because they're bachelors or they're widowers, or they're divorced, and women who live alone, which I thought was very interesting too. Tell us about that.
Well, one of the women quoted in the book is a saleswoman for something called resin. And resin is almost in everything you can possibly imagine. And she said, as a divorced woman, one thing that I preach is that you live in an apartment or a house alone, you live as if there's somebody living with you. So somebody is checking on you. Is the bed made? Are things in gear? Are the pictures hung properly on the wall? And she said, if you live alone, make your bed, like the Navy SEALs say, every day, and have things spick and span so that you're standing tall when you get out there and meet every day.
Yeah, so you shouldn't do what you might do like in a bachelor pad, drink out of the milk carton by yourself, leave the seat up in the bathroom,
Absolutely.
have the garbage and dirty dishes overflowing everything. You don't want to do that.
And so present a face to the world that shows that you care about yourself.
John, what do you think is the single most, it's hard to choose. What's the most important advice you got from a smart woman that you think would improve the lives of people who read your book, Wake Up?
I think the best advice, it's two-pronged from two women. One was a woman who worked for my grandfather for 53 or 4 years. Catherine Faraday from Galway came here to Boston at 18 years old and was hired by my grandparents who lived right in back of Boston College. And she stayed with them faithfully, loyally for 52 or 3 years. And I lived in my grandfather's house for 5 years. Katie virtually was my mother. I think my mother was off shopping every day. And the guys did something that I had no idea about. And Katie told me stories of Ireland, from having a one-room schoolhouse in Connemara, Galway, where she lived, with 6 or 7 siblings. And boys would get outside and put a blanket over the chimney in the schoolhouse so smoke would come in so they'd dismiss school. She told me stories of Ireland and her background and her family all the time, taught me Gaelic swear words, told me stories, sang me songs. And she went to Hibernian Hall every Thursday night. And she imbued me, and she said, as you grow up, make sure you know who your forebears are. She didn't use that word, but make sure you know who your ancestors are. Where did you come from, and who are you? And young people, it seems that parents do not tell the kids anything about the two sides of the family and going back. By the time you're an adult and you realize, I don't really know who I am, all the people are dead who can tell you the stories. Katie taught me, get your family stories.
Yeah, get your family stories, which is a great thing to remember. I looked in the front of the book here. So guess who's above me? Ellen Goodman, Pulitzer Prize-winning author for the Boston Globe. She comments on John's book.
Wait a second, you weren't a slouch, Marjorie.
Leslie Visser, Hall of Fame broadcaster, sports writer. William Phillips, who's obviously a man. He should be the editor-in-chief of Little Brown & Company. And me.
Oh, let's hear what you had to say.
I said, what a perfect time for a message some of us, yes, that would be the male of the species, don't like to hear. Men can learn a lot from smart women.
Thank you.
But delivered by John Spooner.
I don't think we needed that to make your point, but go
A
ahead.
particularly insightful guide, this message goes down easily, lightly, with considerable humor and much charm. Who'd have guessed growing up would be such fun? So that's what I said about the book.
If one more thing that I think in the best advice is that I had an uncle and Aunt Marcia, who was like Auntie Mae. She was very profane, very smart, very attractive. And when I was about to go to college, and I was going to a big school, and she said, if you go to a big college, like Ohio State, or any big school, you've got to find a way to make a big place smaller. She said, go out for something, the glee club, the chess club, a sport, if you can. And that cadre of people in this extracurricular activity you choose will make your college career. They'll become your best buddies. Taking Aunt Marcia's advice, I had never really seen a rowing shell in my life, but I went out for freshman crew in the days when it wasn't a heavily recruited sport. And I made the squad. I was the last guy in the squad. And the coach used to say, Spooner, I can't even see your puddle. Meaning I wasn't pulling hard enough, but I was the last guy in the squad. And the guys on the crew, all of whom had gone to prep schools, because public high schools didn't have crews in those days. And they adopted me. And they adopted me for one reason, because I had a girlfriend then in high school, and her father was a shoe salesman. And he had and she got his car for twice a week. And she picked me up at the boathouse in his car, which actually was a pink Cadillac. So the preppies are saying to me, to themselves, who is this guy? This rare orchid. He's got a girlfriend, and she drives a pink Cadillac. So they all adopted me and did things, opened up doors for me, because I tried to make a big place small that changed my life in 1,000 ways, including finding me my editor who bought my first book at Little Brown.
Well, by the way, I have the exact same
Jim
experience.
was a star of the
I went
crew
out
team.
for freshman crew at the University of Pennsylvania.
No kidding.
On day one, I put my foot through the shell, which are very expensive, and I was cut from the team the first day. So I had a very similar experience to you. Can we bring up one other thing that's not in your book? By the way, the book is Wake Up, a lifetime of lessons from smart women. Marjorie and I used to talk about this almost every day on the air, and we don't talk about it much anymore, and we should. You wrote in March in Boston Magazine, so you don't want to go back to the office. And you made the point that there's a generational divide, which we've experienced too. You're a man, I think you know. Give advice from a smart man as to why people who are choosing to be 100% remote are losing out in the long run, John Spooner.
Here's what you miss. Young people need to get back to the office. I went to graduate school in a brokerage office. I knew nothing about markets. It's an accident I went into the business. And I learned from clients who used to sit in the office all about business, about which I knew zippo, nothing. And I didn't know anything about stock markets either. I couldn't read a stock page in the newspaper when I graduated college. The stockbrokers who were older gave me advice, taught me about markets. The clients taught me about running a business, what that was all about. I got my MBA in an office from clients. It's the only way young people are going to really learn and get a graduate degree on the job. It's the only way they're going to climb a ladder and get to the top. And I haven't met a young person in a long time who wanted to be CEO of anything. You need the education in an office with real people. Number one rule of life, all life is relationships, period.
Yeah, and
Couldn't agree with you more.
And as you point out in that piece, a lot of young people do not want to go back to the office at all, or at least not more than 1 or 2 days a week. By the way, Leslie Stahl also wrote a blurb for your book, too. People have heard of her, needless to say. Shrewd and smartly written, a guide for men, but also for us women. So there you go. Very impressive group of what do you call them? What do you call the people that write the books?
Blurb writers.
Blurb writers. Very impressive group of blurb writers, I would say.
Bob Parker wrote the great Spencer series.
Yeah.
And he was a friend and client of mine for a long time.
Right down the street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked Bob for a blurb on one of my books. And he said, tell you what, I don't have time for this. He said, I'll either read the book or give you a blurb, you say. I said, give me the blurb.
I'm with you. I think you made the right choice.
Hey, John, thank you very much for coming in. And congratulations
we really
on another book, which has got a lot of useful advice for people young and old. Thank you, John, for being here.
Thank you, guys, very much.
We have been speaking with investment advisor, columnist, and author John Spooner. His latest book is the wonderfully titled Wake Up, A Lifetime of Lessons from Smart Women. Thanks again, John, for coming in. Up next, an energy panel with some of the folks trying to move us from natural gas to electric. Hans Detweiler of Jupiter Energy and Joe Curtatone of New England Clean Energy Council are next. We're going to hear about a massive battery storage site proposed.
Friends and foes alike have always spied on one another, but China's spy program has had a very specific goal.
They wanted to be the big power in Asia eventually. And to do that, they need a sophisticated espionage program.
I'm Marco Werman, the complicated and dangerous dimensions to the American and Chinese efforts to spy on each other. That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Cancer Center, dedicated to providing compassionate care and cancer specialists who are experienced in the cancer you have. When you hear the word cancer, their team is ready. Learn more at massgeneral.org/cancer. And Gentle Giant Moving Company, providing moving services since 1980, helping to fight climate change by sponsoring Climb for Climate's inaugural stair climbing event August 10th at Harvard Stadium. More at climbforclimate.org.
I'm Boston Public Radio producer Aidan Connolly, and you're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR, what matters to you.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here Friday with live music from Landmarks Orchestra. Someone just texted me and asked when the governor is here. Is she here the 31st? Can you let me know, and I will say in a minute when Governor Healy will be joining us, which is before the end of the month. If we're at all serious about combating climate change, I know two of us are, but cleaning up our energy systems, that means scaling up renewable energy production domestically big time. Austin, Texas-based Jupiter Power is proposing to build a lithium-ion battery storage site right here in Everett, the site of a former ExxonMobil petroleum storage facility. Talk about great transition. We're joined now by Hans Detweiler, Senior Director of Development for Jupiter Power, and Joe Curtatone. What'd you do before the New England? What'd you do in the past?
I was the mayor of
Oh, you're the mayor of
Somerville.
Somerville. I forgot. That's right. I'm sorry.
I still get you in there, Jim.
He was the mayor of
Even
Somerville.
with that beard, you're still
He is
allowed.
now head of the New England Clean Energy Council. Joe and Hans, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for coming
By the way,
in.
Governor Healy is here for an hour.
July
I've asked
31st,
the
okay.
governor on July 31st.
So, Hans, tell us what Jupiter Power is proposing in Everett. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
Details?
well, let me start first with just what even is Jupiter Power? 'Cause
Yes.
I think most people have never heard of Jupiter Power.
you are correct. I had not.
Before today, so and you're forgiven for that. So Jupiter Power is an owner, operator, and developer of battery storage projects. Basically, we build power plants that are just full of batteries. So what we'll do is we'll charge from the grid when there's abundant energy that's available, and then we'll discharge back into the grid later on when there's more need for that. So we operate.
Can I just translate that one?
The population there, which is huge, 110, 115 degree heat. Yeah. So things are not going well on the grid in Texas.
There are a lot of challenges in Texas. My sister lives in Texas and in Houston, and so I'm getting regular updates from her from how it's going. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges on the grid in Texas, and Texas is unique because it's really an island. The ERCOT system is an island from the rest of the grid, so that reinforces their challenges.
Well, can we stay in Houston for a second, which I hadn't even thought about? My understanding is, at least currently, what the goal is, once you build this and wherever else you're doing it, is you provide a short-term energy storage capacity that particularly, please correct me if I'm wrong, is particularly available during peak needs and outages and that kind of thing. You're nodding in agreement. So why isn't that happening in Houston, as Marjorie just mentioned? Why isn't this storage filling the hole that's been created there?
There's just a need for a lot more. The grid is transforming very rapidly in Houston. Jupiter recently built a significant project in Houston, and that's been a very helpful project. But yeah, there's still a lot of issues and a lot of more work they have to do.
Joe Curtatone, it seems to me that for people to be excited about this project and projects like it, the threshold is they have to believe in the importance of renewable energy as a growing percentage of our energy sources. I don't even know from polling. I understand in the abstract people care about climate change, except the likely next president of the United States and his running mate. But other than, does the average person subscribe to this existential need?
Well, the average person doesn't understand how storage intersects or interacts with wind and solar and our climate action goals. And by the way, the situation in Texas would be a hell of a lot worse if it wasn't for the storage they built out in solar.
Mm-hmm. They're big on solar because of Rick Perry. Isn't that one of the reasons?
No, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it actually is.
Abbott is a climate change
denier.
Yeah, the governor that's there now.
Amongst denying a few other things. But, so listen, Massachusetts, our climate action goals depend upon a significant amount of energy storage systems like Jupiter Power. Jupiter Power, when built, will be the largest battery storage facility in the Commonwealth. Massachusetts is depending on about 2.6 gigawatts by 2030. I think your project is about 700 megawatts.
That's right.
And by 2050, to meet our global climate commitments and greenhouse gas reduction commitments, Massachusetts is committed and needs about 5.6 to 8.7 gigawatts. We are behind, but this is a big project, be a big deal. So in order to make the clean energy choice, the easy choice to the end user, the homeowner, the business, the renter, the large institution, we need to be able to manage, especially when we're intersecting with other intermittent clean energy sources like wind and solar, store that capacity, not rely on peaker plants and dirtier sources of energy, get that energy to you. So it is going to be huge for our grid reliability, for our climate action goals. Without it, we cannot make it.
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up. You used to get in an argument with Charlie Baker when he was on our show monthly about that peaker plant, which he defended for the exact same reason that the storage facility, the same need the storage facility would fill. What I need to understand, Hans, that I don't, is the capacity, and I think you nodded in agreement before, is being a short-term energy storage facility. Is longer-term storage in the works, and it's just a question of how we build? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so our facility is a 700 megawatt facility, 4 hours. It's the intention of the duration that we want to build. So that means it could operate at 700 megawatts for 4 hours, right? That also means.
What is 700 megawatts? Well, what could it power?
Our facility would be about 500,000 homes.
Oh,
so
okay.
You know, it's a significant.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. No, wait, I interrupted him. Let him finish.
Outage, it would help in outages.
Well, it's really in terms of helping prevent outages. If the whole grid goes down, then the grid goes down. But it's very helpful in preventing it from going down. That's
But continue your thought that I interrupted. I'm sorry, a second ago. And I was talking about short-term and long-term.
Yeah, so the way to think about it is 700 megawatt facility can operate for 4 hours, but it could also operate as a 350 megawatt facility for 8 hours, right? The way that the systems operate is, in a typical day, there's more energy, especially with offshore wind and with solar. Like there's more energy that's available at night and at certain times in the morning than there is later in the day. And so the peak periods that you can that a battery facility will be putting energy back into the grid tend to be, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And so commercially, we're designing our facilities around that existing market opportunity that exists right now, and that makes it more cost-effective for everybody.
Because people are coming home from work, then they're turning on the air conditioner, turning on the TV.
Exactly, but the shopping malls are still on.
Yep.
So you've got all the rest of that energy in there.
So Jim mentioned when he was introducing you, Hans, that there's this big ExxonMobil petroleum storage facility. It's gas tanks, isn't it? Is that what's over there, gas tanks? And what would this mean for Everett if you did have this facility in Everett?
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back to the project, because we have a really exciting, iconic project in Everett. So we've arranged to purchase 20 acres of the former 100-acre Exxon oil terminal. It's a highly contaminated site. It's been operated as an oil terminal for 100 years, and before any kind of environmental regulation existed. So not surprisingly, there are highly contaminated situations on the site right now. So the company that we're buying it from, they are going to clean up the site, and then they'll turn it over to us in 2026, and then we would build the facility. So it really does kind of capture the whole spirit of the renewable energy transition, to take this contaminated site, clean it up, and repurpose it to support clean energy. It also, the taxes that we will pay, will invest approximately at least $500 million, hopefully closer to $1 billion in all the battery equipment that we'll place on the site. And we would expect that the property taxes will be like at least 10 times higher with our new investment than what Exxon was paying before. There's a lot of benefits for the community.
Are most of these batteries still being made in China?
A lot of it is being made in Asia, and some of it is made in China. And with recent federal legislation, there is a lot of support for making that switching to having production in the United States.
Which is why I asked the question. Does that make you nervous?
So by the time, no, it's great. So by the time our project would be coming into service in 2028, there will be a lot more domestic suppliers of all of that battery equipment. So it's a very positive.
Let's stay on that for a second, though.
Trend.
It's a very positive trend unless the trend is stopped.
Exactly. That's what I'm worried about too.
So is that trend and that expansion of manufacturing here dependent upon government support to some degree, I assume, or is it not?
Well, there's legislation that's in place that supports that, certainly.
Okay, he has to be nice to everybody.
Yeah,
you don't.
yeah.
So Donald Trump's elected. Ed Markey was here a few weeks ago and said we have to lock in as many things as we can prior to January in case.
And now it's J.D. Vance too.
So what could, on this front, just picking one, what could a Donald Trump undo to inhibit the advance of this incredibly important industry?
Well, he's made it clear. Actually, he's solicited $1 billion from fossil fuel industry, saying, elect me and I'll do everything I can from the IRA. And so a lot of the manufacturing plants, in fact, longer duration storage is in motion for Menendez, and their CEO lives where? Just shout it out. Their company's
Somerville.
There you go. And is building a manufacturing site in West Virginia as a result of the IRA. So perhaps those projects he's not going to be able to undo, but there's a lot more they'll want to do. And that's anything and everything that's not executed in the ground, any money that's not out the door. And that's really important. So we need the shorter duration, we need the longer duration storage. It's all in the works as a result of leadership and legislation and investments through the IRA and other things.
Hans Deichweller from Jupiter Power. One other concern that I hope you're going to blow away. I own a Tesla, and beyond being criticized for helping Elon Musk give $45 million a month to a particular PAC. Friends say that my battery is going to explode into flame someday, and you're going to pay a price. Occasionally, we do read a story about a lithium-ion battery catching fire. Why should we not worry about that, particularly on this kind of scale?
Well, any consumer of any appliance should be careful with lithium-ion batteries, because there are risks that are associated with those. So, If you have a laptop, you need to take care of it. If you're boarding an airline, they're going to ask you questions about, lithium-ion equipment in your stowed luggage, that kind of thing. So you need to be careful with all of that. I'll say that Jupiter Power, from our perspective, safety is our top priority. Like, we need to have safely operating projects for us to be a company. So we take it very, very seriously. Our interest is actually aligned with the community interest in that if we had a fire on a site, then that's not good for us, and the community obviously doesn't want to see that either. So we're dedicated to working nonstop to make our projects as safe as they can be and prevent any kind of events from happening. Our facilities are very different than kind of the e-bike type facility, type experiences that we've had. There have been, for example, a number of serious problems where people will come home with an e-bike and they'll park it in the stairway of their multifamily building and then charge it. And they'll, the charger's not working, so they get a different charger and they plug it in, and it's not designed to work with that battery. And all of a sudden they've got a fire, and they've got a fire in the exitway, right? So there's a lot that can go wrong with batteries when they're not in professionally managed and controlled environments. In our case, we're going to professionally manage and control them. We're going to meet and exceed all codes that are associated with that, and we take it very seriously.
Not to leave batteries for too long, but as long as you're talking about unexpected events and scary things, we talked to we had the guy from Avant-Garde on before, the wind farm down on Vineyard Wind, and as you know, now it's shut down because part of the blade broke off, and they've got shards of fiberglass floating around down there in Nantucket. They've had to close 2 beaches. That was not one of the things I thought could happen, that a blade would fall apart.
Well, equipment can fail, whether it's electrically or based on technology of this type, or the wind farms, or combustible equipment, which in fossil fuel driven fails a lot more often. This is par for the course. This technology in wind turbines has been around for years. Just look at Europe and other parts of the world. They've dealt with preventative maintenance and other failure issues, proactive, very safe. But let's not put this on the same level as Exxon Valdez or BP oil spill. Someone was putting out, not here, but putting that out yesterday, because I'll deal with cleanup shards of fiberglass versus entire ecosystem failures as a result of those disasters. So, unexpected, but they're ahead of it, and safety is at the forefront, which has been taking extraordinary measures to make sure there's no harm to the ecosystem or to any human as well.
How does that happen, though? How did
We're going to find out. I mean, it's no different than a piece of equipment in your car breaking or on a camera. It happens. Equipment can fail. It's not fail-proof. But the incidents of that are rare and very far between, given the history, if you look at it, in countries that have led with offshore and onshore wind.
You don't know Marjorie as well as I do. I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, that Marjorie's going to Nantucket this weekend.
Her beach must be
knowing
closed.
her as I do, that may be the...
Well, not all the beaches, some southern Nantucket beaches.
Hans, can we get back to storage for a second? I should know this. I'm embarrassed to ask the question. You want to say something?
Yeah, actually, there's something.
Please.
When we were doing the initial sort of introduction of all the benefits that batteries can provide, there was one important one that we didn't hit.
What's that?
That I'd like to address, which actually, interestingly, doesn't relate to climate change. It's that batteries are super fast acting. So when there are grid conditions developing, if there's a brownout condition, which is kind of like sometimes the lights will flicker, they won't go all the way out, but they'll flicker for a few seconds and they'll get a little bit dimmer. Batteries can respond within a fraction of a second, faster than other sources of generation on the grid. And so you would be seeing, because of that need for a reliable, responsive electric grid, you would be seeing batteries coming onto the grid in significant volumes, even without the kind of climate drivers that are happening. So there's a lot of benefits for reliability, which supports a robust economy, in ways that are beyond the environment.
So theoretically, even though you wouldn't say it, even the climate change denying nuts should support this. Anyway, I mean, I know you wouldn't put it that way, but yes,
there are benefits for everybody.
Okay, fine. Nicely put.
Hans, Joe was just mentioning that shut down. At least some things could be shut down if Joe.
Not me.
No, if Donald Trump
the other Joe loses.
is elected again. Yeah, that's right. The other Joe loses. But you're in the business, and you're in the business in Texas, where your company comes from, and in a very hostile environment for climate stuff. I mentioned Governor Abbott's a climate change denier. What do you think? You read these stories that say that the economics now are so far along that a lot of this is going to be very difficult to undo, even if Trump tries to. I mean, I know Joe said there were some things, but what do you think as a businessman that's in Texas?
I agree. That's true. Our company's based in Texas. I'm not based in Texas, but I agree that there is a momentum and a cost effectiveness behind renewable and other clean energy resources and batteries that is somewhat inexorable at this point. And so, we've seen flip-flops in policy choices sometimes in the past, and there were promises, for example, to resuscitate the coal industry in the state and in the nation, and that went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely nowhere.
Hans, do you have kids?
I do, too.
So, based upon Massachusetts legislative history, your kids' grandchildren will die before this is approved in Everett. I'm hoping that is not the case. Are there any, is this arguably, I assume you need lots of approvals along the way. Are there any foreseen obstacles? I assume not on the Everett. Well, I don't know. Are there obstacles that are popping their heads up early on?
So there are always obstacles that come up. We actually, I'm glad you mentioned this because we did an open house last night in Everett, and we're doing another open house tonight. So anybody who's listening in, if you want to learn more about the details of the project, the Connolly Senior Center in downtown Everett will be there from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So please come on by.
They can go right from there to the slot machines right afterwards. So it's perfect. Go ahead. Hans.
In fact, there were some people that did that last night. They also stopped at Mike's Roast Beef.
Good.
They hit Mike's Roast Beef, and then they.
What a trifecta that is! I'll tell you. But go ahead.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of outreach to tell the story of the benefit, and as I mentioned, locally, people are very concerned with, hey, what are be the local impacts? And we will see a significant increase in taxes, the revenues that we'll provide to local governments, and so that's a real benefit. So we are optimistic as to where we stand right now, but we've got a lot of work to do, and we need to continue a lot of outreach.
One last question. This is one I started to ask you a minute ago. I should probably know the answer to this without having asked you. Beyond this sort of industrial level storage facility, maybe not the appropriate word, but you know what I mean. Why don't I have a storage facility in my house? And is that in the works? Are people doing that? Or
you can. It's kind of your individual choice if it's worth it to you. I think you see those kinds of units selling better in places where blackouts are more common, or especially like rural locations where it's a very long, skinny line, and anything knocks out that one line.
So they exist.
They absolutely exist. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
That's like everybody has generators in some parts of the Cape. What'd you go?
Just want to say a big shout out to Mayor DeMaria and the Everett administration, really open-minded and what they're leading to transform the site of the Exxon gas tanks, but also a former coal-fired power plant, and the Haley Driscoll administration. This is a big project for our climate action goals, and the legislature being open-minded in their legislation about making sure we put in incentives in place to make this benefit be unlocked for the Commonwealth.
Did you say good things about DeMaria when you were the mayor of Somerville?
I said enough. I'm a fan.
Okay.
He fights for Everett like I did for Somerville.
Yeah.
How do we find out more information about this if people are not coming to the Connolly Center tonight there, Hans?
Our project is called Trimount Energy, and so www.trimontenergy.com.
Great. Yeah. Good to meet you.
Well, thank you very
Lots
much,
of luck.
and good
Joe
luck.
Tony, great to see you. Thank you, gentlemen.
We've
Appreciate
been
it.
speaking with Hans Detweiler. He's Senior Director of Development for Jupiter Power, and Joe Curtatone of the New England Clean Energy Council. I much appreciate your coming in. Up next, Globe travel writer Christopher Muther. He's going to tell us about the best miniature golf spots. A lot of the best rooftop bar around here. And he's also going to tell us about riding electric boats in Boston Harbor. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming. We're back up, youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered. With Massachusetts' inmate population dwindling, the state's oldest prison for men is closing its doors. Boston is rolling out a new plan to deal with its rat problem. Plus, we'll have the latest on the Vineyard Wind shutdown as investigators try to learn more about why turbine components ended up in the ocean. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And South Coast Artists, presenting their 21st annual Open Studio Tour July 20th and 21st in Tiverton and Little Compton, Rhode Island, and Dartmouth and Westport, Massachusetts. You can download the tour brochure at southcoastartists.org. And MIT Federal Credit Union, a member-owned cooperative serving their diverse community through banking and financial opportunities for 84 years. Learn how you can become a member at mitfcu.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. And answer the question before, the governor will be with us on the 31st at noon here at the Boston Public Library. And on Friday, we'll be back with the Landmarks Orchestra performing and talking to us. We're joined now by Boston Globe travel writer and star of Love Letters, as we know, a couple of days ago, and Reckless boat captain, Christopher Muther. Chris, it's great to see you. How are you?
It's great to see you both. Jim, thank you for dressing up for me today. My God, you really didn't have to go to all that trouble. You
very
know
nice
me.
of you to say. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he always gets dressed up for
You know,
the
it's 100 degrees. Do you know it's 100 degrees or thereabouts?
I'm always cool.
Okay,
so I didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I love best ofs, and you have really done yeoman's work here. You got the best beach, the best clam shack, the best mini golf course in New England, the best rooftop bar. Give us a sampling of best stuff. Let's start with golf courses, mini golf.
Oh yeah, I mean, who doesn't love mini golf in the summer, right?
I love it.
And you know, there's all of these.
You do?
No one asked Jim. Actually, I was asking Marjorie. So there's all these fantastic old school mini golf courses in New England, and I love the old school, like these new fancy indoor with a bar. It's like that's not miniature golf.
No.
I mean, that's just like a place where Judes can go and drink whatever they drink. So anyway, best miniature golf course. I really wanted to name the one that's in Natick.
Okay.
Which is an absolutely bonkers Revolutionary War themed mini golf course that will give you nightmares because it's so creepy. But I thought I needed to do something a little more like beachy and summery, so that's why I named Putter's Paradise.
Yes.
As the best. It's in West Yarmouth, and I always remember because I've been going here for years. There's one of the obstacles in the course is a giant plaster of Paris. That's probably fiberglass. Pink octopus named Princess Tina. I don't know why her name is Princess Tina, but I'm in love with her.
Yeah, I've driven by that. That's on 28, isn't it? South Yarmouth, I think
it is, yeah.
I think I've driven by
What do you
that
think? What should someone think about a person who knows enough about mini golf courses to be able to say what the best is? What do you?
He's a travel writer.
Yeah, but
this is very helpful to people.
I mean, really?
Miniature golf. Best.
Marjorie was raving about this. He rates the best miniature golf course.
There's a lot of reporting. You have to go to a million different places to get these things down, right?
Like years of reporting.
Years of
on this,
reporting.
yes.
That's right. And I would love to investigate mini golf myself. That'd be really fun.
Let's make a plan.
Okay, we will.
Wait a second. I mean, I know you're praising this. He says the best way to get to the Cape is Cape Flyer, the train.
That's
and then
right.
he says the problem is it never runs. So I mean, so tell us about Cape Flyer and what the good and the bad.
Well, Cape Flyer is great because it's a train to the Cape. You're not stuck in traffic. The bad is that it's very limited hours.
Yes.
So it's like Friday evening, and then Saturday and Sunday it leaves ridiculously early. They have to work it all around the bridge. So they can't just kind of go whenever, which is maddening.
The railroad bridge down there.
Exactly, yeah.
It's been around forever.
What is it, in all seriousness, have you ever taken it?
No.
We've talked a lot about it. What is it
I'm
like?
disgraceful. I should. But I know it goes beautifully, but I just go over the train tracks all the time on 6A. You go in and out of there driving down.
Is it pretty or
gorgeous?
I mean, the ride is beautiful. Like once it sort of gets down through, I think there's a Brockton stop, and then it starts sort of in the more rural area, like down toward the water, and it's really great. And it's like people are really happy on the train. It's not like when you're on a regular commuter rail and you're like dour and you don't want to be going to work. It's like a really good vibe, and it's also just, I think it's a great way to get there. Yes, you have to get up early, but if you're going for a weekend,
but you could go Friday night and come back Sunday night.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
so that's not bad.
Takes you into Hyannis, and there's also like shuttles there that will take you to where the ferries go So there's you've got lots of options when you're there.
Can you drink on I'm serious. Are there drinks on the train?
I never touch the devil's nectar. You know that, Jim.
Oh yeah.
I'm someone who's of upstanding character.
By the way, I've told the story before, but when I was still doing a television show, Christopher is, where were we, in the middle of the Mediterranean? He is on a boat. I know that's a big ship, thank you. In the middle of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
He is in a tuxedo when he's live, zooming in to my television show. How would you describe the state you were in at that particular moment?
Happy.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Very happy.
Very happy.
Hannah, one of our producers, she has taken the Cape Flower.
Oh, what'd she
said
say?
She took it last summer. She sat in the bar car.
Oh.
So there you go. But she said it kind of smelled weird. That's not a good sign. But people were having a very good time on vacation.
Weird. I mean, tell her I had taken a shower that day. So it couldn't have been me that time.
Did you notice a weird smell in the bar car of Cape Flower?
No, I think I had passed out by that time. I mean, I don't get near the bar car.
Okay, so wait a second. For those people, should just read thebest.com. You glamping, fried clams.
Yeah, the headline is the best beach clam shack and mini golf course in New England by Christopher Mueller in the Boston Globe.
I want one
very
more.
Useful.
One more. Roof decks
Roof
and
deck.
drinking on the roof in the summer is my favorite thing on the planet. What's the number one spot?
I said Raffles, the new Raffles Hotel, which is Back Bay.
Which you said is one of the greatest hotels ever in another column, yeah.
Yes. I didn't say one of the greatest hotels ever.
Well,
but
you sort of said that.
Didn't
you have a butler come to your room? Was that the place where the butler came to your room to make your drink?
Butler came to my room. It's the first time I had a butler come to my room in a hotel and mix me a drink in my room.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Pretty great.
They didn't know who I was. So
They didn't know who you were.
I was just an average Joe getting a drink in my room.
It's
with
very
my butler. Yeah.
Posh.
So what's so
I love
nice
that
about the
word.
roof of the Raffles? What's so nice?
I think it has the best view because there's a lot of seaport hotels that have roof decks, and those are nice too. But Raffles, you get this great view of the Back Bay, and also you get to try the Singapore Sling, which is like the drink that they're famous for. I mean, it's just a different vibe. It's like less party and more really chill and
Aren't
fun.
these people from Singapore? Isn't there some connection between the Raffles and
Yes,
Singapore?
that's where they first started.
So that's why they make exquisite Singapore slings.
And that's where the drink was invented at a Raffles in Singapore.
Oh.
Yeah, see, so it's a genuine Singapore slang. I think this is a great column. People should get it. Now, here's something I didn't even know you could do. Go out and rent a boat. They're not cheap, but if you get a group of people, you can go out and rent an electric boat and cruise around Boston Harbor. Talk about beat the heat. Tell us about that. And you were the captain.
I was the captain, yeah. Which my friends were really brave to let me captain this boat around Boston Harbor. There's a company called Boston Electric Boat, which I realize is tough to remember because it's Boston Electric Boat.
Boston Electric Boat, yeah.
And you can go and rent a boat for like 2 hours. You could rent longer, I assume. And so you can rent a boat for 6 or for 12. And then it's like a golf cart on the water. It goes 6 miles an hour top speed, which is kind of all you need.
Can't get in much trouble.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can. I mean, there are other things in the harbor, right?
Yes, but if you're going 6 miles an hour, Jim, you
the
have
other
plenty
things
of
aren't
time
going
to turn
6
the
miles
wheel.
an hour.
Well, yeah.
They're not.
They're
However,
not.
I'm not going to let the gray sky known as Jim Rowdy sort of ruin this for me.
So was it great?
It was great, yeah.
Of course, a day like this when you're so hot and you go out in the water, you get the breezes and the
Well,
smells,
except-
wave to people going by.
You heard what I heard. He took a couple of his friends out
Yeah.
there. And here's what we understand a bunch of those people had to say while he was captaining the ship. Here it is.
Please, these gays, they're trying to murder me.
Now that was a recording we made
Jennifer
of, I think,
Coolidge.
one of your friends. Oh, that was Jennifer Coolidge?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of your friends on the...
I would do my Jennifer Coolidge impersonation, but I don't want all of your listeners to turn off the radio. But yes,
please do.
They were really like all the Gilligan's Island, Titanic, Poseidon Adventure. They're like, this boat's gonna sink. We know it, but it's actually not too bad to do. You know, for 2 hours, like none of the others wanted to do it because they wanted to drink. So I was the one stuck being the captain of the ship, and I just sort of like floated around the harbor, like watched the sunset.
How much is it for 2 hours?
It's $500 for 2 hours, but if you divide it up in a group, it's like nothing. And then we brought our own food and drinks and that sort of thing. So it's like a picnic on the water, and especially a day like today, a summer like this summer.
No
it's
kidding.
Such a great
Boston
way to...
Electric Boat? What's it called again?
Boston Electric Boats.
Boston Electric Boats. It's
Yep.
actually quite great. We're talking to Christopher Muther, travel writer for the Boston Globe.
Okay, here's something I didn't know about raw dogging. Do explain, please.
So, I mean, as someone who's an expert in the ways of the boudoir, raw dogging always meant something different to me than its current.
Don't share that with us if you don't mind.
We can.
No, I'm not sure we can.
Yes, we can. No condom.
Okay.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it is. No condom.
Oh,
I guess
too
we
late.
did share it.
Yeah.
This is public radio, folks. Anything
Public
can
radio.
happen. Anything can happen. So raw dogging, its initial meaning was sex, unprotected sex.
Unprotected sex.
It's like barebacking, the same thing. I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm saying these words on the radio.
I can't believe Margie's saying these words on the radio.
You
but
said
go
no
ahead.
condom.
So
I sound like a teacher in the 9th grade.
So this has nothing to do with this new airplane challenge. So it's a TikTok thing where bros and dudes, and this is pretty much the category, they're all like, yeah, bro, I'm going to go raw dog this flight. Yeah, man. So the whole thing is like no headphones, no food, nothing to drink, nothing to eat, no entertainment. You're just looking at the seat back in front of you, the screen. You can watch the map, and that's it.
And what's the point?
So you can put it on TikTok where it's really boring to watch someone staring at a. I think the idea, it's like for some reason they think this is tough. It's like, do they think it's like axe throwing? I don't know, but it's like.
Well, you're disconnecting. Maybe that's not a tough kind of thing, but I
Well, why
thought
can't
that
you
was
have a snack if you're disconnecting?
because you're supposed to just be there
Thank you.
meditatively, staring at the map, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love staring at the map.
And I think it's like great. I've been on long flights, and even though I've had internet access, I've said to my editor, I don't. I hope she's not listening. So I could like detox from like doing work, but
I know.
But it just means that it gives me more time to like watch a bad movie or
By
something.
the way, Zoe, our coworker, just sent me a note directed at me saying, Jim, real men don't snack. Okay, so that's her position. So is anybody doing, I'm sorry to obsess on this. Is anybody doing
That's
this?
fine. Oh yeah, like lots of people are doing it, or at least they're saying they're doing it on TikTok. And like these posts are going viral. So there's one that's had, I don't know, like 500,000 views or probably more than that. Whatever viral is on TikTok. However, in this case, I don't know if you raw dog or bareback, if viral will have a different meaning than it does on TikTok.
Marjorie would know, actually.
So when you look at these people just staring ahead at the map on the airplane, why would anybody necessarily want to watch that? This person is really handsome or something like that?
Why would they want to eat a chip that's going to kill them?
Well, they actually have to do something in that one. Just watching someone. I mean, I wonder about the viewers, I guess. Why would that be a hit?
I mean,
You know what I mean?
For me, it's exciting to see because, and I'm hoping more people start raw dogging because that means they're not reclining their seat.
Oh, okay.
So they're like,
That's a good one.
They're straight as a board.
All
And
right.
so I'm like, yes, bro, raw dog.
Raw
Come
dog,
on.
yeah.
You can do this.
Now, Christopher Muther, you come from Athol, and I guess that has
I
been
didn't know
somewhat
that till the other
traumatic.
day.
Traumatic for you growing up because people make fun of that name. I was not aware they made fun of that name.
Are you kidding me?
I really had not thought much about it, Jim. Had you?
Yes, I had.
Where's Athol, Jim?
It's right next to No Condom, Massachusetts.
That's actually accurate.
Yeah.
It's next to Raw Dog, Massachusetts.
I have no idea where it is.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Belchertown is the other town with a weird name. Well, there are a lot of towns with weird names actually in Massachusetts. But but you had a kind of a wonderful Atholian experience when you were in Scotland, is it?
I did by complete happenstance. And I was actually on vacation. I wasn't even going to write anything about Scotland. But as my husband and I were driving down from the Highlands to Edinburgh, we saw a sign for Athol. So Athol, by the way, Massachusetts is 1 L. Athol, Scotland is 2 L's. And I think they have 2 L's just to show that they're superior to our Athol. But there's a Duke of Athol.
Of course there is.
And they've actually have come to Massachusetts before. And the Duke and the Highlanders, which is the only private army in Europe.
Wow.
The Queen, years and years and hundreds of years ago, sanctioned the Duke to have his own army.
Wow.
And they're still going today. Now they're ceremonial, obviously, but the Duke and the army are coming to Athol in April of next year for the infamous River Rat Parade to help celebrate the 60th anniversary of that. I mean, But back to the other Athol. Athol, Scotland it's gorgeous. I recommend going not just because it's named Athol.
Even if you're not from Athol.
Even if you're not from, even if you're not an Athol, you can still go.
An Atholian, is that what you are from Athol?
I think just an Athol is what he's saying. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say Blair Castle is there, and it's gorgeous. And you can also stay at the Athol Estates.
Oh.
You could camp. You can rent these beautiful cabins. It's like a really, really lovely place. And so I felt slightly less ashamed of being from Athol. However, I talked to the state rep that represents that area, Susanna Whips, and she was telling me the story about how Athol, Massachusetts got its name, which was basically a guy who was supposed to he's supposed to register it as Paxton.
There is a Paxton.
Yes. However, and that was going to be us. And instead, this guy he said, no, it's Athol. He wasn't supposed to. He was also a traitor during the Revolutionary War.
That's very sad.
And he's on the town seal of Athol, Massachusetts. This Benedict Arnold of World War II.
I think we should get rid of him. He shouldn't be on the town seal. That's
I
terrible.
felt I hadn't lived until I read this column, by the way. I really learned so much. Now, I hate to correct a guest, and I'm particularly fond of you, as you know.
All right, my eyes are already rolling.
I wouldn't have known to make this correction until Meredith Goldstein from Love Letters on the other day. You said a minute ago, my husband and I were driving through Scotland. That would not be exactly correct. What would the correct thing have been? I'll tell you what it was.
Me and my husband?
My second husband and I were driving through Scotland. So if people didn't hear this the other day or don't listen to Love Letters podcast, which is fabulous, you sit down. We know you a little bit, and I like to think I know you a little bit plus. You opened up about your life in way. By the way, I have huge admiration for you, by the way. Why'd you do this? I mean, he tells you everything about every relationship. And
Josh and Brad.
Whatever. I mean, why'd you do this?
Oh, that is such a good question.
Are you getting a lot of blowback?
I bet you're getting a lot of praise. Be honest. You are, right?
I mean, I was getting a lot of raw dog now.
Yeah.
So why'd you do this, honestly, Christopher Mueller?
Meredith asked me. And Meredith is a really dear friend. We've known each other forever. And, she's a doll. And the thing is, I said yes. And then I started the interview with her for the podcast. And halfway through, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
You were seduced.
I really was. Because then the more I spoke, the more I realized, it's probably not good to have that much information.
No, it was great. I loved it. I loved it.
So
Talking about growing up in Athol, which couldn't be been easy as a gay guy 30 or whatever years ago, and then it was your love life. We loved it. We loved to hear stories about
Look at him. He's turning
romances.
red like a beet.
They start, they go well, then they end, and all that kind of thing. And you got married, right? I can see why there was a lot of pressure. That was one of the things I've heard from many of my gay friends that said, once they changed the rules in 2004 and you get married, pressure's on. Pressure's on, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We better get married. And that's what happened to you.
That is what happened to me. Let me just clarify, though. That was my first marriage.
That was your first marriage. That's right.
My current marriage, I was not under duress.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the themes, I assume, even though you didn't articulate this just now, is one of the themes that comes through from the podcast is the importance of travel in one's personal evolution, which you should have said. Now that I have said it, explain how that emerges from this podcast you do with Meredith Goldstein.
I think I'd rather have you explain the rest of the podcast.
No, I'm serious. Tell us how important travel was to you.
St. Bart's.
So, for instance, I was dumped, monumentally dumped by a guy I was dating. And it just
Your first dumping, I believe. Is that not correct?
Was that Kyle or Josh?
It was Kyle.
Okay, go ahead.
First time I'd been dumped in my entire life. And we were going to go to St. Bart's. And I still had to go to St. Bart's to write the story. And I wasn't the travel writer yet at that point. So this was I was going to go and write a fun story. And he would be with me and it'd be romantic. So I was dumped and I still went. And so I'm sitting, this beautiful beachfront restaurant in St. Bart's, looking at all these couples around me, having these romantic dinners, and I'm with a cat. There's like a cat at the restaurant. He's outside. She gets up on the seat next to me. She's like looking at me. I'm like, you know what? You're the best date I've ever had.
Wait, the cat said that or you said that?
I said that. The cat was like, you're the worst date I've ever had.
No, she felt your pain.
I think she did.
She did, absolutely.
So what's the moral of that part of the story?
Oh,
to you,
I think like the overall, for me, let me try to make some sense out of this, is that I was someone who was always in a relationship. I was someone who was always kind of, didn't have to really think on my feet a whole lot. And this is, again, before I'm a travel writer, and had never traveled by myself. And then I had to start traveling by myself and realize that you get a lot out of travel just by learning about new cultures. But you also get to really invest more in yourself. So not only are you by yourself and you have more time with your own thoughts, but you also, it helps you grow, it helps give you an independence, and it helps sort of just shape you more as a person. So for instance, now when I'm traveling and at the end of the day, I will FaceTime with my husband and we'll say, you know, how was your day? Like, he's a doctor, so he'll always tell me about crazy things that happen to him, and then I can tell him, you know, well, I was climbing this mountain in the Alps, and, you know, it's like, it adds like this dimension to our lives that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Yeah.
Meaning he would have divorced me by now if I didn't have fun stories to tell.
But I do think it makes you more fearless and more confident in all those kinds of things. I traveled a little bit by myself when I was young, and I thought it made me a new woman.
It has.
Absolutely.
It has definitely changed me. For the better.
So you're sort of like the pride of Athol now. Is that what you would, how you would put it?
I don't know. After this segment, probably not.
Is your high school invited you back to do any like a discussion? I mean, like on the distinguished alum list or anything like that?
I'm sort of on like the least wanted list on the billboard at the high school.
By the way, do you know this story that I went to Central High School, which was like, I think the second public high school in American history. And I don't know why. And it was also the Supreme Court of the United States many years ago. It's old boys, said it was fine to stay old boys, based upon a separate but equal notion, believe it or not, because there was girls' high down the street and it was okay, but that's not the story. So someday I go on Wikipedia to look at Central High School, and I see there's a category of notable alum. I'm saying this is going to be great. So I got onto the B's, and you know whose name is not there?
Jim Browdy's.
Mine.
Oh,
do you know who Tori Bedford is, with whom we work?
Yes, I do.
She put my name in, and there it is.
Oh, Jim.
Is there anything wrong with that? It says you should amend things when they're
that's wonderful.
incorrect.
That sounds a little needy to me.
So I am now among the notable alumni with fabulous people like Bill Cosby.
That's right. That's right.
All right, now it's making more sense to me.
Okay, so
Christopher, in a moment of seriousness, let me just say, I know Marty feels that podcast
is great.
Fabulous,
it's called,
not only about you, but for everybody.
It's a Love Letters podcast. It's called Love Traveling with Christopher Muther. And it's really fun to listen to. And your stuff about Best Of is well, your stuff is always great.
What'd your husband think of it?
I haven't told him.
Jesus.
I was talking to...
Wait a minute. He thinks he's the first husband, is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, I didn't tell him about the other husband. That's why I wore white at my wedding.
That's right.
I've never raw dogged. I promise, is what I told him.
You were under duress. You were under duress. What could you do? Thank you very much, Christopher Muther. We have been speaking with Boston Globe travel writer Christopher Muther.
Good to see
Very
you,
complicated
Chris.
life there. Very complicated indeed. Up next, we are opening the lines for a midweek edition of Am I the Athol? Actually not. Actually not. It's Am I the A-hole? I didn't want to miss out on the fun of this because I'm not here tomorrow. So we'll ask who the bigger jerk is in this situation. The parents who want to join their kid in Mexico on the honeymoon of that child, or the young couple desperate for some time alone on their honeymoon. That is next on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Coming up on The Culture Show, sports writer and film critic Noah Gittell brings two American pastimes together in his new book, baseball in the movies by looking at the baseball movie and how it's changed over the decades, from glory to nostalgia to cynicism. He says it's also a way to gauge how American values have changed. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Comcast, offering Xfinity Internet, designed to provide a connection for home networks so everyone can be online at once, even during peak hours. More information at xfinity.com. And Burton's Grill and Bar, featuring contemporary American cuisine with signature dishes such as crab-crusted haddock, superfood salad, Mediterranean chicken risotto, and the Max Burger. burtonsgrill.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Brody and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here Friday with Live Music Friday from the Landmarks Orchestra. I assume when you mentioned the no condom thing, Dave in the car texted and says, I want to thank Jim and Marjorie for raising the level of conversation on public radio.
Oh, no.
So I think that was...
well, he may not like the next segment either.
Even more. In any case...
But that's okay.
Okay.
We love it.
And tune into GBH News tonight at 9. The station will take NPR's live special coverage of the Republican Convention with this live fact-checking tool available at gbh.org. So till the end of the show, we're asking you by call or sex, this is who's the a-hole, because Marjorie's off tomorrow, Shirley the Young sitting in, on how much time spent with your parents is too much when it comes to your honeymoon. Here are the facts. A couple is planning their honeymoon to Mexico. Their parents want in on the action. Here's what the post said. They asked if they could join us on our trip as they've never been to Mexico before and don't want to travel alone. The parents say they'd travel on the same plane but stay at a different resort and promise not to bother the lovebird. So the question is, who's the a-hole here? The parents on insisting on crashing a romantic getaway, which is the honeymoon, or the couple for wanting them to stay home? Should the couple just cut the parents a little slack, set some boundaries around how much they really can butt in, and get dinner with the parents maybe one time in Mexico? Or should the parents back off and let their kid enjoy some independence? The number is 877-301-8970. When we were talking about this morning, there's a corollary issue, which is much more common, which I think is a variation on the same theme, is you're going to visit your kids who live out of town. And your expectation as the parents of the grown kids is you want to stay at their house, and they have reserved a room at a nearby hotel. Who is the a-hole there? The parents want in on the action, essentially, and the kids just want their freedom, want their distance to be left alone. 877-301-8970. Who would be the a-hole, Marjorie?
Well,
Egan?
I mean, to me, this is an easy one. The parents should not be inviting themselves to go along on the honeymoon. That's pretty bad. Even if they say they're going to be on different planes, they're not going to bother them. The whole time the honeymooners are there, they're going to be waiting for the call from mom or from dad saying, can we have dinner together? It's going to ruin everything. You want to get away from everybody in your honeymoon. That's kind of the point of the honeymoon, right? But, you know, it is a dilemma that staying with your children, your grown children, like if they move to, say they move to Colorado or California. You know, I have a friend.
Well, you have a kid in New York. You have a son in New York.
So if I don't stay with her, my son's still there, my daughter's not, but if I don't stay with them, it's costing me a fortune to go to New York because you can't really.
And you're not staying with them and seeing them as much as you want to see them.
Yeah, well, it's not that. It's. I mean, if you could get a $95 night hotel,
which you're not getting,
which in New York City, we're talking like a $500 night hotel or a really expensive Airbnb. But at the same time, too much closeness, right? Too much closeness. And I think a lot of parents don't realize that your grown children really don't want you staying in their home.
Well, okay, let's go back to the honeymoon.
Home.
Wait, let's go back to the honeymoon. Mm-hmm. So the family, the parents have never been to Mexico. That's one. And two, they don't want to fly and go by themselves. So you just fly on the plane and you set limits and let them go do their fun thing and you do your honeymoon. What's wrong with that?
You're claiming to be with the parents here, Jim?
Not really. No, I'm sort of claiming to be with the parents.
No, the parents should find someone else to go to Mexico with, or they should wait till a trip further into the marriage. You don't go with anybody in their honeymoon. I mean, that's just horrible. Although we do have a clip from season 1 of White Lotus, that great TV show. If you haven't seen it, what's that on? Was that on Amazon or Netflix?
HBO. Thank you, Aiden.
It is great. Both the season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, but season 3, you know who's not going to be on it?
I know, Jennifer Coolidge.
She's dead.
Yeah.
She's not dead.
No.
Her character's dead. Did I just give away a spoiler? Well, if you didn't watch it already, I mean, forget about it.
Please, these gays, they're trying to murder me.
That is Jennifer Coolidge in one of the funniest scenes in an incredibly funny show.
They're both really, really, and dark, kind of darkly funny.
Yeah.
But in any case, here's a clip from season 1 of White Lotus where a newlywed couple encounters this exact problem.
Am I interrupting? Mom. I know it's only your honeymoon.
What are you doing here? Hey!
Don't worry, I have my own room, and I'm here just one night, maybe 2 nights. Your wedding took years off my life. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I cannot remember a thing. I don't remember anything. I'm not kidding. I don't remember anything. It's a blur.
And by the way, for people who think
they were horrified, by the way, when the mother showed up.
No, the son was not horrified at all. The wife of the son, the daughter-in-law, was horrified.
Well, the daughter-in-law was horrified. I think
he was calling his mother like nonstop.
He was calling his mother. I don't think he expected her to actually show up. But in any case, she did.
And she's staying in the same bed. You didn't tell that part. No, she's not. 877-301-897. By the way, for those who think this is preposterous, we did a story a few months ago where a parent was calling a professor of their child, their grown child, in college to dispute their kid's grade. So the notion that this level of intrusion is not real is not real. 877-301-8970.
The texter says this is the ultimate in helicopter parenting, and I think that's a good point. Anyway, let's go to Mary in Boston. What
Hey,
is it,
Mary.
Mary.
Hi.
Hi. I am definitely a hard no on
Hard
the
no.
MIDA. I mean, that's a complete boundary violation, and they can politely tell the parents, hey, this is a honeymoon, and just by definition, parents don't come on honeymoons ever.
What do you think about, Mary, what do you think about the parents even asking?
Well, I think there's some apron strings that need to be cut. I mean, it's like you were talking about that show, and I happened to see that episode. Yeah, and it was so triggering. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation. But there were also class issues because the husband was sort of a rich, pampered prince, and the wife was from a regular kind of, middle-class background. So there were a lot of things going on. But the people in the scenario, they just have to say, hey, Mom, Dad, we could maybe do this another year, or you can join a tour group. There are lots of organizations that can, help you out with your trip to Mexico, but it ain't us, not this time.
Mary, a very thoughtful call. Thank you so much for making it. 877-301-8970.
Here's a texter. All I have to say is family is like fish. After 3 days, they both start to stink. Which is, there's no one yet that's taking the side of the parents. But I'm interested, too, what they do with their grown children, especially when their grown children might have a kid or two. The grandparents want to come visit. Do you go and get the air mattress out and sleep in the middle of the living room?
What do you think about the answer to that question?
I think it's hard I don't think the grown children like it at all. Absolutely.
What if you have space? What if you have an extra bedroom?
If you have some
How do you
big
say
house,
to your parent, you can't stay
here? If
here?
you have like a 4-bedroom house and you have a nice bedroom with a nice bathroom, that's probably a different story, but most people don't have that kind of space.
Marjorie's worried, as we learned months ago, that one of her kids is going to put her in the garage. I mean, remember we discussed that? What are those units called, those 900s?
The granny flat.
The granny flats,
That's my future. Yeah. When things get tough, I'm going to ask one of the kids if we can build a granny flat in the backyard, and that's where I'll spend my last days. Mike in Woodstock, thank you for calling.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, there's no question about this one. The parents are definitely the a-holes. The only reason they should accompany these youngsters on their honeymoon is if she's still breastfeeding.
Beautifully put there,
and let's
Mike.
hope by that stage of the game.
Thank you.
She is not. Boy, I don't have anybody here who's agreeing with the.
Well, it's a tough one, by the way. Did we read the comments on the Reddit story? I don't even know what the comments were. 877-301-8970. Okay, so the honeymoon thing is a little extreme. Let's talk about what you said a minute ago. It's a variation on a theme. A kid's got a multiple bedroom place wherever they live out of town. You, the parents, are going to visit them. You want to stay in that extra bedroom. They want you to stay in a hotel. Who's the a-hole there?
Well, I have stayed by myself, and when my daughter had a 3-bedroom apartment with 3 bedrooms.
She had an extra bedroom?
She did.
And she told you not to stay there?
No, I did stay there. I did stay there.
Oh, you stayed at the house?
I stayed.
Were they happy or not happy?
I think it was fine because it was a bedroom with a bathroom. So I had I was en suite, as it were.
You
Jim,
were?
So it was very, very nice. Yes, but listen to this from Sarah and Chelsea. I sell homes and rent apartments. I have clients where their parents do everything for them. The child will be in their late 20s, even 30s, and the parents are finding housing for them. Parents are the a-holes.
By the way, I bet you there's some young, at least one half of a married couple that would be okay with their parents coming along. Don't you think that?
I don't know. On your honeymoon?
How about that kid? Remember at the Natick Collection, one of our favorite stories ever? When the parents bought the 40-year-old son who couldn't get a date, a condo above the Natick Mall that was called the Natick Collection, because I think the story in the Globe was because when he got on the elevator from the condo, it went right to outside the women's dressing room in one of the department stores. No, I'm serious, in the mall. They're hoping he'd meet a date.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one of the commenters who seems reasonable. Listen to this. Maybe the parents want someone with them when they go through customs. If they've never been out of the country, maybe they're intimidated by the process. I don't know what they think the newlyweds could do, but it might lessen their anxiety.
Well, how do they live at home if they're so anxious? How do they deal with stressful kinds of situations there?
Saying it was intimidating to him to travel alone. I think it's intimidating to lots of people.
They're not alone. They're a couple. The parents are a couple.
Right, but if they're going out of the country. They might feel one thing is going to Pittsburgh, another thing is going to Cancun. They might be nervous about going through
Maybe
customs.
they should just go to Revere then, if that's the case.
They could go to Revere. That's a good idea, Jim.
Fine,
That's vacation spot number 1 here in Massachusetts.
For some
as we all
it is,
know.
yes.
Susan in Northborough, thank you for calling.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Well, I think we're good. Thank you for asking. What's up?
Good. I hope so. I can't believe the first half of the question is even a question because no. As for the second half, though,
what was the second half?
It's interesting because the second half is about parents coming to visit.
Staying with your kid.
Do they stay in a hotel?
Yeah, I got it. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, I do agree with Marjorie that after 3 days, the fish and the family stinks. But I do think that if somebody's in particular coming across country, coming to see their grandkids, they want the experience of staying with them and being there. And, to that point, my brother and sister-in-law had a bathroom built in my nephew's home so that they could have convenience when they live downstairs in the basement when they come to visit.
Oh, there you go.
Nothing like having the parents stay in the basement. That's what I always say. Susan, thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it.
Listen to this. A friend of mine grew up in England. His parents had a 1-bedroom flat. He couldn't understand why they never moved. He was 16 and sleeping on the couch in that flat. But when he got married in his late 30s, his parents stayed in the same hotel in the room above his on the wedding night. The morning after the wedding, there was a knock on the newlywed's door. It was his mother calling through the door, saying, Siddy, are you all right in there?
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that?
Would you stay with that person after that?
Having his mother and father in the room
you
above
me
on my wedding night? I think that's very odd.
You think it's odd? I think it's fairly odd. How about the mother knocking on the door the next day? Think that's rather odd?
That's well, a lot of
What'd she say? Sydney, are you all right?
I don't know if his name is Siddy or Siddle or whatever it is. Whatever. Are you all right in there, dear?
Okay, fine.
That's a bad sign. Bad sign. Deon Andover, thank you for calling.
Hi, Dee.
Hi. I love you guys.
Thanks.
And I'm a long time. I have a little bit of experience in this.
Oh.
Hang on. I just walked up the steps. I'm from the West Coast. My ex, my first husband, is from Europe. And we decided to elope. We decided to tell our family what we were doing, where we were going, and guess who showed up?
Your father.
Yes.
I told you we were going to get one of these.
Oh.
And why did he?
Yep,
what was the rationale for him showing up?
He didn't want to miss his daughter's wedding. So we show up. We're in Hawaii. It's the second day we're there. we go to have breakfast, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking, gosh, that guy looks like my dad. And it was.
That is fabulous.
Wait a minute. Had you already been married by that point?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay. All right.
Well, how'd you feel about that, Dee? How'd you feel?
You know what? I guess we embraced it. We had a lot of fun. But what happened was it pissed everyone in the entire family off. All of our good friends, my sister, my mom. So it was very selfish of him.
So wait a second. Were your father and mother married at that time?
No, they were divorced.
Oh, okay. So he just came on his own.
Yeah, he just took it upon himself, and we called the honeymoon and wedding kind of just the three of us.
Boy, I am so glad you called, because I said to Zoe and our colleagues and Marjorie, there's going to be one person who lived this experience, and you did. So did you say you're not married to this guy anymore?
I'm not married to that guy, but I just got married last year, and we decided to actually have a wedding. So
very nice.
No one could join us on anything.
Thank you. Hey, Dee, that was a fabulous call. Really glad you made it. Thanks so much. Good luck with this husband of yours.
Here's Dee in Framingham. My in-laws wanted to go on our honeymoon with us, too. We were traveling to Colorado. They thought that was too far away. Since I refused to have them join us, they wanted us to stay in New England so it would be closer to them. They proceeded to interfere in all aspects of our marriage. My husband never seemed to notice. The marriage ended in divorce.
Wow. That's pretty good. So their intrusions post-marriage were a function of them being excluded from the long-distance marriage to begin with? Is that the deal? That's unbelievable. Go ahead.
My parents used to stay in our second bedroom when they visited. When I told them I was pregnant, their first comment was, well, where are we going to sleep? These are people who spent 22 weeks at our house the first year we were married. We ended up getting a pull-out couch for our spare room, and they were there for a month. I finally had to put a 2-week cap on them when they were causing stress and were not volunteering to help in any way with the baby.
22 weeks at first, and then a month after the kid was born.
In Revere.
That was fabulous, Michelle.
Yeah, that was a fabulous one. Oh, my God. That's a patient woman. Let's go to Tara in North Attleboro. Hi, Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for making it.
So I just wanted to sort of play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Because I know most people are siding with, like, the honeymoon would be a disaster with parents butting in. But, I think it might throw in, another dynamic level of the dynamic if the parents are paying for the honeymoon.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tara. Yeah.
So I think in some situations it could be worked out if like firm boundaries are set in place beforehand.
But that's sort of like you're buying access to the honeymoon, you know? I mean, isn't that, it's a little too transactional, no?
That's not me. I'm one of those people that scrolls through Reddit posts like this.
Yes.
So I see a lot of on Reddit. I've seen a lot of situations where like it is kind of transactional. So I don't know. It might be something that could be worked out and everyone lives happily ever after.
Tara, several people are talking
so
about who's footing the bill, and maybe that's a factor. But listen to this one. My friend brought her whole freaking family on the honeymoon from Brockton. She married up, moved to North Carolina. She requested her in-laws' beach house in South Carolina for the honeymoon, and she brought mom, dad, sister, and hubby, and 2 kids.
Can you imagine that?
No. But apparently, maybe people think differently about this in Brockton. I have absolutely no idea.
So why don't we, isn't Michael Curry from Brockton?
Michael Curry's from Brockton.
We can ask him next time he's on.
He's getting
That's
married.
right.
We'll see if he's taking his whole family with him. I don't think so. Do we have time for one quick call?
Really quick.
Really quick. Dale in Northbridge, thank you for calling.
30 seconds, Dale.
Hey, I've become an addicted caller, so
thank you
so much for your show.
Thank you.
I got 2 things to say.
Quick.
The first thing is let the parents go to one side of Mexico and the honeymoon go to the other side, and that way they're both happy.
Okay.
And the second thing, when it comes to helicopter parents, before I retired, I actually had a mom come in and scream at me for firing her 21-year-old son for not showing up at work.
That is the perfect call to end this. That's exactly what I'm talking
Dale,
about.
thank you
Dale,
for the call.
Mozart's Jeune Homme piano concerto with soloist Alicia de la Rocha and the English Chamber Orchestra led by Colin Davis.
Tonight on GBH 44, in this French-language crime drama based on real-life events, a police profiler working for the Homicide Division teams up with a cranky cop to solve unsavory cases. Catch The Paris Murders, tonight at 10 on GBH 44.
Classical Radio Boston is WCRB-FM 99.5 HD1 Lowell, Boston, WGBH-FM HD2 Boston, WCAI-FM HD2 Woods Hole, WJMF-FM Smithfield, Providence, and at classical.org.
Coming up on 2 o'clock, hi, Greg Farisi here with you. Hang in there just a little bit longer. We've got some rain expected tonight that's going to help cool things down a bit, hopefully. And I've got some great music to help get you through, like Mozart's 33rd Symphony, Verdi's, nope, I